The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. He missed the complete. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
In a season that has seen many changes in format and rules, Continental Endurance Sports Car Series has likewise been thrown for a loop in the championships. Rookie drivers in the ST field are giving a serious challenge to powerhouse James Stevenson, while the GS champion Kimmo Suominen is in a close fight with the rising star Patrick Bieri. The arrival of the teams at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park means we are now past the halfway point in the season. The question is, in these high-tension championships, who can manage the pressure better? Today, the windy and hilly terrain will likely push everyone's patience to the limits as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the CESCS live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak. Joining me in the booth today are Ayrton Ellis and Bill Zahn. Our cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard and are directed by Kevin Brown. Ayrton, though it's recently gone through a name change, most drivers will still affectionately call this place MoSport. What are they looking like they're in for today?
Well, MoSport's is a 2.4-mile track, also 3.9 kilometers, and has about 10 corners varying from lawn-sweeping corners to a single tight hairpin. Has a lot of elevation changes as well. And these guys are going to be running 2 hours long in their Mustangs and MX-5s today, so quite a long race for these guys.
And as we let qualifying finish the final laps, we are going to go to a lap guide to show you what it's like on board around this very historic track. All right, we're going to take a lap around Canadian Tire Motorsports Park with Kevin Brown at the wheel of the GSRC Mustang. Coming on the front straightaway, it's going to be a very short blast to turn 1, which is a very fast corner. There's not a lot of braking into here. And it's very important that you hit your apexes all the way around this track. You can see he gets over the curb there, and it's not a big deal. But you track out and then get back to the right side because this blind crest leads you into 2, and it's going to be a double apexer. Very important that you don't touch the grass on the outside if you drift wide, or else you're going to go right into the barriers. Now turn 3 is going to be an early apex, and like a lot of the corners here, it's going to be oversteery on entry, and then you're going to be pushing on the exit, so it's the worst of both worlds. Coming up to 4, it's going to be full blast through this downhill, very fast left-hander, and you want to keep the car to the left side as much as you can because it leads you right into Moss Corner. Heavy braking into here, probably a good passing zone if you can get side by side. And set yourself up really good for this exit if you can, because this is the most important one on the entire track, onto the back straightaway. Even if you do get a good exit, if you're in the MX-5s, the draft is very powerful here, and you're going to see a lot of battle. We apologize, we had a slight error, technical error there, so we unfortunately did not get to see the end of the lap guide. But we are actually running out of time anyway, so let's go through the championship real quick. Ayrton, what's the GS side looking like right now?
Well, leading the way is Kimmy Suominen with 175 points. Patrick Bieri is in second, only 16 points back. Sean Vandergriff is in third, 32 points back. Steve Brown is in fourth, 39 points back. And Nicholas Bailey is in fifth, 41 points back.
And what about the ST side, Bill?
Well, 13 points separate the top 4 drivers. Yal Freitas is the leader, Amjad Yaman in second, Sergio Mora in third, and then the 3-time champion James Stevenson is in fourth. There's 13 points back from the lead, with Bill Randleman wrapping out the top 5, 32 points back.
As we said, qualifying was at the end earlier, so we now have a grid, and they are currently down there on the front stretch behind the pace car, waiting for that to take off. But let's go through that real quick. Sitting on pole, Arthur Hermont is at the front with Brian Stronbeck on the outside of the front row. Then Steve Brown is in third, followed by Nicholas Bailey in fourth, Eli Huffman in fifth, Panu Paisanen in sixth, Duljan Boldrin is in seventh, then in eighth it's German Fanador, followed by Matthew Oak in ninth, and 10th is Jeff Jacobs, Ayrton.
Then in 11th is Andre Trago, 12th James Alex Brown, in 13th Tim Brokaw, Jason Breyfoggles in 14th, Jonathan Auger in 15th, Anthony Woodward in 16th, and John Edler is in 17th to round out the Mustangs.
At the top of the ST field, Sergio Mora has taken pole, followed by Amjad Yaman in second. Gerd Yanis, in his first time driving this track, has managed third position. We expect good things from him. James Stevenson down in fourth, unusually low for him. Arthur Chan is in 5th. 6th is Richard Losper, followed by Thomas Torp in 7th. 8th is Stefan Overgaard. 9th is Carl Williamson. And 10th is Dexter Castro.
Matthew Reinhold follows them. George Britton, Ang Ho Tao, David how do we pronounce his name, guys?
Whammond, I believe.
Whammond, I think
you
it is.
can call him Whammo, though.
Whammond. Whammo, I like Whammo. Ed Voris follows that, guys. And the bottom 2 are wrapped up by Stephen Asbury and Philip Carpenter, bring up the field.
So, not as quite as full a field as we've seen in the rest of the season. Only 34 cars out there today, but still a significant amount. And Ayrton, I expect traffic to be coming into play today with this relatively short lap.
Yeah, and the narrow track makes it just as difficult for these guys really to agree with each other when it comes to mixed class passing. So I'm expected to see quite a bit of that going on, especially with some tight battles. So some of these guys look very close together in speed.
Yeah, it was quite tight in practice, that's for sure, as far as lap times were concerned. I believe you mentioned to us before the race came on, it was something like 2/10 between the top 5 or something like that. So just incredibly tight racing. The Mustangs are coming up to the final set of S's, which means the pace car is going to peel off. And we are going to start 2 hours of racing around MoSport. God help all those poor drivers having to deal with traffic down there. I would not want to be trying to weave my way around 2 different classes on this track. Pace car just about ducks off now. He does right now. So Arthur Hermont is now leading the way. Gets the green flag. How does he do on the acceleration? Looks like he does decently. Strodbeck does not have an answer. Now he backs off of it. Interestingly, I am not sure what is going on there. Strodbeck already in the lead. That checkup really caught Steve Brown out, who almost got in the back of Hermont. And now they are starting to slot a single file. What is the SD start looking like?
We're just coming to the green flag right now. They're coming around the last corner, so we're not there yet, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind. Green to the SD.
And as Sergio Mora leads them away, Amjad Yaman makes a serious challenge around the outside, but backs out of it through turn 1. Very close quarters between Jared Yanis and James Stevenson there. They're still side by side for that top 4 there. Now they get single file. Yanis is way on the outside. He's out into the grass on the first lap. This is going to cause him to lose a ton of positions. The entire field just about has streamed by him. He is all the way to the back of the pack. An atrocious start for Yair.
Yeah, Yeri's known for not having great luck, and he's going to have his work cut out for him now.
So back up at the front, though, of the ST cars, Sergio Mora is still leading the way, followed by Amjad Yaman. Then behind him, it's Stevenson. Oh, and we've got Arthur Chan off, coming into Moss Corner. Gives his way back, and he makes slight contact with Thomas Torp, but everybody manages to keep going with little damage, it looks like.
A lot of excitement back here from the guys in the Littles cars. But it looks like everybody's clean, even though there was excitement.
Yeah, unusual for this series this early in the race. We apologize. It looks like we might have just a couple technical problems with our replay there as everyone is sorting themselves out. Let's jump back up to the top of the GS cars and see what it's looking like out there after a very strange start from Duljan Boldrin backing off. Ayrton, do you have any idea what could have caused him to back out in the middle of the straightaway like that?
By the way,
Arthur Hermont,
yeah,
actually.
Arthur Hermont. I think it could possibly just be him not being comfortable leading the way. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure leading the pack of 30 cars, so might have not wanted that pressure and just let him on by, but he's being pressured by Steve Brown as well, so he might have been lacking a little bit of pace and just got a lucky lap in qualifying, maybe a really good draft, but he showed pace in practice as well, so I'm a little surprised with how hesitant he's been so far this early.
Yeah, very unusual decision. He, like you said, he's under serious threat from Steve Brown, who is following him down the backstretch now, taking a look to the inside. It looks like he might be able to get this pass done. He's going to have the inside coming into this first right-hander. Once they get to it, it's a long ways to there, even in these powerful Mustangs. The question is, can he hold on? Because Hermont could hold the outside coming through turn 8 here. Nope, he gives up the ghost and slots back in the line, now just ahead of Nicholas Bailey. Now, you might notice that Steve Brown actually has a different paint than usual on him in that white paint. And that is because he is currently running a Rough Start HappyTails.org paint scheme. He is going to donate 50 cents for every lap that he completes to that organization, as well as $5 for every podium and $20 for every win. So, and that is a excuse me, I drawn a blank for a moment there. A foster home for dogs that have a rescue for dogs. And actually, unfortunately, let's jump back to Arthur Hermont, who is very much under threat by Nicholas Bailey, who is looking very good in practice, very fast, tries around the outside, but there's no doing that around turn 3. But he is certainly looking like he has got great pace today.
Yeah, he almost lost it on the exit of turn 3 there. Managed to keep it together, but he has Elliot Huffman right behind him as well, so he definitely can't afford to make a mistake while trying to pass Arthur Hermont. And we do have Steve Brown going off a little bit in MoSport. He manages to get back on, but it looks like Arthur Hermont might be able to get the position.
Doesn't look like he had a very good exit of that corner. In fact, he was compromised because he was watching out for Steve Brown re-entering the track. But look at poor Nicholas Bailey, now boxed in behind both of them. He has absolutely nowhere to go. He is just on the bumper of Steve Brown. He might be actually bump drafting him.
Looks like
we are on board with Bailey, seeing what's going on, and it looks like he's going to try around the outside of Hermont coming through 8. He's creeping up there. He's going to have the inside of this left-hander. Is he going to be able to get it done? Hermont is still holding on to it. It's going to switch back. Hermont's going to have the inside this time in the final corner, and I think it might be a done deal. No, it's not. Bailey still comes back around the outside, out-accelerates him, and takes the position into 1, or does he? Yes, he does. Wow, that was an impressive move.
Through all that, Brian Strodek managed to get a 2.5 lead over Steve Brown, so he's starting to pull away a lot.
Hermont is having an absolute terrible time because Elliot Huffman took a look into turn 2 but decided better of it this early in the race. So Hermont is slipping back from pole now into, let's see, what position is he in? He is in 4th position now.
Yeah, he seems to be really struggling right now, and now there's a huge train from 2nd all the way down to, I would say, about 9th place with Matthew Oak at the tail of it. So these guys all, if Arthur Hermont keeps this up, he's just gonna get passed and passed by all these guys.
Meanwhile, jumping back to ST, taking a look at Arthur Chan, and I just saw him make a pass on Dexter Castro. So he's been working his way back up after that early mistake on lap 1.
Yeah, and Sergio Mora is comfortable in front. Yaman's been challenged by Stevenson, who's trying to get into 3rd place. You know, Joe, I want to point out that Carl Williamson started in the middle of the pack. I went to see how he was progressing, and I'm not sure he took the grid. I think he may have started from pit lane. He's a lap down now, so something went amiss for Carl.
On his back foot, but he will have a chance to try and get that back since they do allow lap cars to get their lap back if we have a caution. So he is not completely out of it necessarily, just going to be really having a tough time. Meanwhile, we're still watching Amjad Yaman in 2nd try to run down Sergio Mora, and he's got James Stevenson just behind him, and I believe these guys are all on different teams. So as we hop on board with James Stevenson looking back at nothing, now we're looking at the front there, looking at Amjad Yaman trying to run him down. Now, has James been pretty aggressive about trying to get up there, or is he looking pretty patient since we've still got quite a bit of time left, 1 hour and 53 minutes to go?
No, I think as a 3-time champion, I think he knows what's up here. I think he's just biding his time. He's been able to close on Amjad Yaman whenever he's wanted to, so I think he's just waiting for things to settle down. And I think he has the pace, though, to not only keep up, but probably make a move on these guys when he thinks the time's right.
Well, this is definitely Yaman on improved form. We saw him kind of struggling last time out at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago, and he put it on, let's see, he was the 2nd, I believe, yes. He put it on the front row and still holding on to it, and certainly not letting Sergio Mora get away. So he is looking very handy to adding to his win tally in this series. And we have to remember, this guy's a rookie in this series.
Yeah, and in 4th place, Stefan Overgaard's made a nice move. He's running up. You know, we talk about Stefan never quite running what we expect. I think this is a good spot for him in 4th, and he's followed right behind by his buddy Richard Losper in 5th. So there's a nice battle going on there.
And I actually don't know if they'd be battling at this point because you'll notice that Richard and Stefan have similar paint schemes. They are teammates on AMS Motorsports. Same thing with just ahead of them, James Stevenson. So these guys all are kind of together on track. Not quite Stevenson, I suppose, but probably helping each other out. Meanwhile, the Losper definitely has Arthur Chan on improved form, who's running him down, got a draft, and look at him just scream by down the backstretch.
Yeah, he's going to have the inside line here, and I think Rich is going to have to give up that spot.
Now, Arthur Chan started in 5th position, and this is going to put him back up into that 5th position. So he's regained already after only 5 laps what he lost in that first lap with that mistake down towards the hairpin. So this is another improved form driver that we're seeing, because Arthur Chan, we used to call him Mr. Bad Luck just because it seemed like he could never have things go his way, but right now he's making his own luck.
And before we go back up to the Mustangs, if we can go back to Yuri Yanis, who just gave Matthew Reinhold a little bump. You know, Yuri had trouble on the first lap. He's making his way back up through the field.
Yeah, it looks like he's gained a number of positions. He was all the way down to what, about 14th or 15th on that first lap, and he is already back up to 9th position as you see him put just a couple wheels off in the dirt.
Yeah, right before we went to him, he was, I don't know if he missed his braking point, but he gave Matthew a little love tap there, said, hello.
Well, someone who is saying goodbye is definitely Brian Strodbeck. 7 laps in, and he has a 3-second lead, Ayrton. He is checking out.
Yeah, and those guys behind him, Steve Brown, Nicholas Bailey, they're in 4th and 5th in the championship at the moment. So they're going to try and want to rack up as many points as they can to catch up to the rest of the guys in front of him in the championship. It's pretty interesting, this race, that the top 3 guys, Kimo Swaman and Patrick Fieri and Sean Vandergriff, none of them appeared for this race.
Yeah, and of those guys, I believe Vandergriff and Bieri still have drop races to go. However, Suominen does not. And we've got a battle going on between Nicholas Bailey and Steve Brown. Bailey is around and into 2nd place. Bailey absolutely doing a great job today. He is looking like potentially he could do something with maybe even a win here if the yellows go his way on strategy.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how he played that out. He sat behind Brown, didn't make any moves. Then as soon as Brown made a mistake, he just shot right on by, and I'm sure he has the pace to catch up to Brian Strodbeck since he was faster in practice and about the same speed in qualifying. Brian Strodbeck hasn't been able to pull away that much of a gap. He's only closed half a second since these guys stopped battling behind him.
And we are watching, it looks like Elliot Huffman have a go at Arthur Hermont, who continues to absolutely not have the pace around here, but he holds on to that 4th position this time around as he rebuffs Huffman up into the S's and on into lap 8 here. Now, let's talk about pit strategy, since we touched on that just briefly. What are these guys looking at today, Aaron, as far as how far they can go on gas, and really what's the best way to go about when to take these 2 stoppers or 1 stopper if you want to go that route?
Yeah, well, we mentioned trying to go late on their first stop and early on their second one, just to see how cautions play out. Obviously, if a lot of cautions happen in the first half of the race, they want to try to make use of them and save some fuel while trying to get their pit stop done for on the second half in order not to get caught out in caution. These guys, they should be going around for about 15-minute mark, and they'll start making their first pit stop.
Well, Hermont is making life very hard for Huffman. He was very defensive coming into 3, and right now Hermont is trying to go around the outside of 4, but I really don't think that is possible at this point. Has to back off, and there is a huge Truly train going on behind these guys. They've got Dualjan Boldrin, and whoa, Huffman was way loose there. German Afanador and Hanno Paisanen actually all stacked up behind Hermont.
Yeah, I think Arthur Hermont's really struggling. He might have just got a setup that worked well on the short run, but I imagine that him and Dualjan Boldrin might be using a similar setup, so I'm kind of mystified as to see how Boldrin's doing a little bit better on his pace catching up, while Arthur Hermont just really struggling on these tires. It looks like Elliot Huffman just went a little wide going to that corner.
Yeah, and we are on board with German Afanador as wow, just look at them stack up through these slower corners as he comes up on the back of Dualjan Boldrin, looking to try and find a way past. Ayrton, I almost kind of want to be in German's position here, because if those guys start fighting up ahead, there could be multiple spots to pick up.
Yeah, and as long as he keeps up with these guys, I mean, there's quite a bit of draft to find on this track as well. There's a very long backstretch, so he can probably easily keep up with these guys, but passing is very difficult, so you really have to hope for mistakes around here, especially with how narrow the track is.
So as we watch this train continue on, it sounds like we're already getting the MX-5 starting to get in the way. Actually, so let's stick with this, actually, because look at Hermont go very wide coming out of 3, and Huffman tries to go by once again, but gets squeezed coming up into 4, and they've got Stephen Asbury in the MX-5 just ahead of them. Is this going to cause them trouble? Looks like they're going to catch him just at the backstretch, so he's going to be able to get out of the way. So, as I was saying before, it looks like, Bill, they've got a few of the backmarker MX-5s starting to come into play with the other class here. So these guys are going to have to start weaving their way through, or being patient until they get a nice long stretch.
Yeah, I can talk more about that, but let's have Kevin Brown go to Stefan Overgaard if possible. Yeah, the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th in the MX-5 category has been incredibly tight. And there's Dexter. You can see him. Dexter Castro just got around Stefan Overgaard. Now, he also just got around a couple laps earlier Losper, so Castro's making his way up through the field. Next on his list would be, I guess it's Arthur Chan, who's having a nice race as well. Hey, to talk about pit stops, while the theory has been to go long for the first one, then a quick short second stint, and then a long third stint, in theory you could come in now, probably make your pit stop, and then do two long stints. So the pit window actually is probably open right now.
Theoretically it is. There's a lot of variety that these guys can do in these multiple pit stops here. But whoa, and Dexter Castro is off. This is going to allow, it looks like, potentially 2 cars to get by. Yes, both Losper and Stefan Overgaard have slipped by. And we are watching Philip Carpenter, who I think had an off, I believe.
Yeah, he went off in turn 2, just hit the wall a little bit. He managed to get back on the track, so no reason for a caution.
Ooh, that was a fair thunk into the tire barrier, though. That could potentially mess up his handling. Let's go back to the Dexter Castro-Richard Losper battle, though. These two are not necessarily the best of friends on track, and Dexter Castro's making very good of an outside line around 8. Where did that pass come from? Because I did not think you could make it that cleanly that early in that corner.
And if we drop back two spots, you'll see Yuri Yanis making his way up now. It looks like it's hard to figure out positions. I'm going to think that's probably about 8th spot as he's right behind Losper.
Now, I thought I heard a car make contact with something along the way there, but I'm not sure if either of you have spotted anything. Speaking of Dexter, though, we noticed that his qualifying really did not exemplify what he was able to achieve in practice, so he seemed to be slightly out of position at the start of this race.
And it looks like Stevenson has got around Yaman for 2nd place.
Meanwhile, though, we are watching Gerrit Yanis trying very hard to try and get by Richard Losper, and Losper is going defensive, coming up to 4. In fact, he's still well ahead of Gerrit Yanis' Blackhawks car. Now coming up into the braking zone of 5, goes slightly defensive. He knows that if he wanted to, he could try to sneak one up the inside. He's a little bit too wise for that one, but now they're onto the backstretch. And look up ahead of them, though, Dexter Castro has a bit of a run on Stefan Beauregard, so Castro looking to try and get himself up into the 5th position, and he has got a run.
And while you're watching that, I'm keeping an eye on the leaders up here. Stevenson is beginning to lose patience with Sergio Morris. He's really all over him like fuzz on a peach.
Well, things are going pretty peachy right now for Dexter Castro, who pulls the same move as last lap and gets yet another position. I'm going to have to remember that one, ask him how in the world he did that, because twice now he's made it look incredibly easy and is already into the top 5 after starting 11th. We are 10 laps in, only 17 minutes into this race. That is impressive. Let's jump over to GS, where it sounds like we have a battle going on between Arthur Hermont and Elliot Huffman. Elliot Huffman looking on the inside, coming into turn 1. He is trying to sneak it up through there, but Hermont has a little bit more power coming out of the corner, carrying that momentum around the outside. Now he's got the inside heading into 2, and there is just no way you're going too wide through there.
Yeah, Huffman's been trying every move possible at any corner possible to try to get around Hermont. He seems to have a lot better pace as he just breaks a little too late there. Boldrin seems to go right on by to gain that position for 5th place. But right behind these guys was German Defender. Last lap, he blew his engine going into turn 8. Looks like he's out of the race.
That must have been what I heard a little bit earlier, that bang that I was commenting on. Poor German Defender has not been having the season that we've seen in the past, where he has been up towards the front. He's been a bit of a mid-packer, but boy, Jules-Jean Boldrin, that was very opportunistic. He had his heads up. He saw what happened with Hermont sliding just a little bit wide and snuck it right in there through 3.
These guys are teammates, so I'm interested to see how Boldrin's pace is compared to Hermont's.
Excuse me, yeah, and this is exactly what Huffman does not want, because now he's got two guys on the same team, so they're probably going to be working together to try and hold him back. And as they work their way around the lapped car of Matthew Reinhold to complete lap 11 here, he's going to have an even harder time now with these 8 or 80 cars ahead of him.
What's interesting is we're going to have the Mustang leader is going to be coming up on the MX-5 class here pretty soon. Boy, those Mustangs really get around here quick, don't they? As they're already lapping the lead cars of the MX-5. It'll be interesting if Stevenson maybe can follow him through and get around Mora that way.
Now, I have to apologize because I don't think we saw it on screen. At what point did Stevenson get around Amjad? How did he pull that off?
Amjad made a little mistake. Amjad's actually lost touch with those two leaders now. Amjad made a little mistake and he's lost ground. He's comfortably in third, but he's got Overgaard coming in behind him.
And we were mentioning teammates earlier, that's what he is not going to want, because having both AMS guys in front and behind, he is definitely going to be squeezed. And there were some sparks flying between the... Excuse me, we're getting information that Arthur Chan is actually behind Jamin, so Stefan Overgaard is a little ways back still. Excuse us. Regardless, though, I want to touch on that one point. The 49 Motorsports guys and the AMS guys had a little bit of a tiff going on after the last race. A few words were said, and some guys got a little heated. I think it's cooled down since then, but I know our old rivals, James Stevenson and Dexter Castro, certainly were not all roses between each other between the last race and now.
Well, you know, I've been watching Dexter, and he is on fire. He's up to 5th place, and he's been up to 5th place 2 or 3 times as he's gotten by those guys at least twice. He looks like he really has a nice pace today, and be interesting to see when the pit stops come, because he's pretty sneaky. We'll see if he can get up close to those guys when pit stops come, and make these guys something to think about.
Right now they are being split by a couple of GS cars, and that is Hermont and Boldrin that we were talking about earlier, and we might have...
Did we lose Joe? Maybe we lost Joe there. He was talking about the leaders of the Mustangs coming on up there. So right now, to review, we got Mora in 1st, Stevenson in 2nd, and Amjad Yaman in 3rd.
Yeah, this mixed class racing is going to get really tight, especially through that turn 2 and turn 3 there. We just saw Ellie Huffman, John Boldrin, and Arthur Hermont. They got really close to Dexter Castro and Arthur Chan through those corners.
Lost Joe Peak, and that's too bad because he's certainly the smoothest tongue of the three of us. But Ayrton and I will try to hold it down till we get Joe back. Hey, and here comes the leader in the Mustang going by the 2 leaders now. And look at this, if we can follow Stevenson making a move on Mora.
That outside move is really difficult to pull off. It looks like Sergio Moore might be able to pull off. James Stevenson poking his nose in a little. Really trying to get onto the inside of that corner. Isn't going to be able to pull it off with some really opportunistic moves from James Stevenson there, while Ryan Strodbeck tried to make a pass around them.
Hey, Ayrton, let me ask you, how much of the draft do you think is in play here for the MX-5 guys? Because sometimes it's hard to tell if Stevenson is still giving Mora everything he wants. It looks to me like Stevenson has the pace over Mora, but can he just be hanging on from the draft, or really is it hard to do that here?
I mean, his strategy at the moment might just be to sit behind Mora and try to maybe gain a gap ahead of everyone else. I mean, Amjad Yaman is right behind these guys, and a strategy for James might be to try to work with Mora and not pass him and try to get a lead. But obviously that isn't working at the moment, since Yaman definitely has some pace as well and is able to keep these guys in touch, because I think he's within the draft as well. So the draft factor is actually pretty big here. I just don't think James has been trying to make the pass. They've got a little bit more traffic here, so that might give James another opportunity.
I think with the Mustangs beginning to come through, if I were Stevenson, I'd rather be in 1st than in 2nd. Here comes a Mustang right now. We'll see how that works out. Oh, they're going to get by nice and easily. So there goes, as the leaders of the Mustangs start to file through, and here comes another one. And let's see if Stevenson is going to make the same move he tried last time. No, he's just going to sit back there.
Yeah, I think he's just happy to sit behind him for now. I mean, it's a long race. We're only about 25 minutes into it, and another hour and a half to go for these guys. So, I mean, it's just a good idea not to try to get into any crashes at the moment, because it is a pretty narrow track, and we talk about how difficult it is to pass, but mean, Amjad Yaman's now caught up right up to these guys again.
Nice battle between Brown and Bifocal here as we're in the Mustang. They're running about 13th and 14th right now. Brown in the blue striped car there and Bifocal right behind him. And I'm not going to use colors because my mom gave me bad cones, but in the darker colored cars. A nice race going on there. They're in the back of the Mustang class right now. It looks like it's settling down a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually really good to see some good action, as it looks like Bifocal might be trying to make a move, decides better of it going to the difficult turn 2, but it's good to see a lot of action in the second half of the field here in the GS class. It looks like Bifocal's going to try to make another move. It looks like he's getting those good exits, just can't get to the corner. He can't get side by side before the corner, but he's trying again. He's going to be on the outside for this next corner coming up. This is a really fast corner, difficult to go too wide through as they come down, to go downhill into MoSport. He decides to back off a little bit. So definitely some aggressive, yet still pretty safe driving, not making any moves that might cause an accident.
And just ahead of them is Anthony Woodward. So there's really a three-car race going on there.
Yeah, Tim Brokaw's with him as well, just sitting behind. They're still going past ST traffic as well. It's Stefano Regard, Richard Losper, they're battling it out as well. So a lot of this class racing, we haven't seen much of it being too conflicting.
We got a pass. I'm sorry, Dexter, Aaron, we got a pass for the leaders. Looks like Stevenson has got around Mora there in that last corner.
Oh, it looks like Amjad's just going to get on the outside as well. It looked like a little bit of contact between those guys as they went through turn 1. They're still side by side. Going to turn 2, I'm expecting that Mora might back off first corner. As he does, it's really dangerous to go too wide there, but it looks like James Stevenson already getting a nice gap with the usage of those two GS drivers. That's Doljon Boldrin and Arthur Hermon.
Yeah, and there was definite contact between those two. Now, the MX-5 is so fickle, you don't really know if his car, he looks pretty much like he's up to speed there. It looks like he didn't damage, but sometimes a little tap like that means nothing, and sometimes a little tap like that can end your day.
Yeah, just the slightest little hit on that suspension can really screw up the car and cause you a lot of repair time for the pit stops as well.
Oh, okay, we're going to take this little time as we see with Stevenson, Mora, and Yaman 1, 2, 3. We'll take a little break, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
Welcome back to the CESCS at MoSport for round 7. I have to apologize. I had a problem where I lost power weirdly there, but I am back now, and we are back at the track as we watch Amjad Yaman try to hunt down James Stevenson in first. Now, I was gone for just a little bit, guys. What in the world happened to Sergio Mora?
Oh, he got chased down by Stevenson, and then Amjad Yaman tried to take advantage of it too, and they had a little contact, but it looks like they're settling down now. It's been a nice battle.
So I missed all the excitement apparently in those few minutes that I was away, but we've got a whole gaggle of Mustangs there that are working their way through, and it looks like everyone should be by cleanly though at this point, as they're ahead of Stevenson, who currently leads. So as we jump back to Jeff Jacobs here, and then Tim Brokaw now, it looks like he's got quite a battle going on with a number of Mustangs all around him.
Yeah, Tim Brokaw has been leading the group. Anthony Woodward, Jason Bifocal, James Alex Brown, they've all been battling quite a bit. It's really nice, as I was talking to Bill before, to see a good amount of battles happening really in the rear of the pack as well.
Yeah, these guys are pretty cleanly right now, it looks like, as Tim Brokaw is currently up in the front of everybody leading the way, although Anthony Woodward has a very feisty Jason Rifle coming around the outside looking into turn 2, but like I said, you really cannot go too wide through there, so he backs out of it and is going to have to try another day when he gets another opportunity.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys, they've been just doing a lot of very smart driving as well. They've been trying to make opportunities happen and then backing off when they know that's not a good idea. So none of them have gone into any accidents. There's only been a couple drivers that have actually gone off track, at least in the GS class. The GS class has been very safe so far this race.
Yeah, we're only a quarter of the way into things as Woodward actually takes a look inside up into Moss Corner, but can't make ingrounds onto Tim Brokaw and has to slot back into line in 11th position. So Tim Brokaw is just in the top 10, and he is trying to hold on to that top 10 position with everything.
Yeah,
And
just
to
going back.
go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I was just talking about how the leader, Brian Stradback, through the lap traffic of all the ST cars, he managed to gain a 4-second lead, but Nicholas Bailey, within just a couple laps, has already closed that down to 3 seconds. So either Stradback made a mistake, or Nicholas Bailey is running some really fast laps.
Or, you know, potentially we could be seeing traffic come into play with these guys, as I see that he just went by Hang Ho Tao there and that 49 Motorsports car. So Brian Stradbeck is trying to work his way through some Miatas as well. So it could be a matter of when they're catching guys, and maybe it's just working a little bit better Nicholas Bailey's way.
Yeah, I also noticed that Elliot Huffman has gone to the back of the GS grid. He was battling in the top 5 before, so I'm going to go check out what happened to him while we talk to Bill.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on a couple guys that have been really exciting to watch. Dexter Castro. If you look at the MX5 class, you have your top 3 drivers, Stevenson, Yaman, and Mora. But then behind them has been Dexter Castro in that second tier of drivers. He's now into 4th. And right behind him, making his way up from a horrible first lap, is Yuri Yanis, is into 5th place. So it'd be interesting to see if Castro can gain a little ground on Mora, because he looks to be really fast.
Yeah, he's certainly making up for having a very bad qualifying where he had a number of offs and unfortunately lost what could have been good laps. So he's at least got the race pace if he doesn't have the consistency for qualifying today, and it's serving him very well. Just behind them, Richard Lossman was trying to find his way past Arthur Chan, couldn't find anything. Now Arthur's got a jump on Gerd Yanis down the backstretch. The draft is pulling him in. Question is he going to try and make a move and work himself up into that 5th position?
Yeah, and this is really where the excitement has been. The whole race back here between Castro, Yanis, Chan, Losper, Overgaard. They've really been going back and forth left and right. Tooth and nail. Hammer and tong.
As Richard Losper would like to say. Well, this is back for those 5th, 6th, and 7th positions between these guys. So it's not as big as a win, but these guys are fighting just as hard for them and looking for every opportunity. Like I said, we're only a 4th of the way into this thing with an hour and 28 minutes left to go. We haven't seen any pit stops yet. Everyone hoping for caution. And knock on wood, Aaron, we've been having a pretty caution-free race so far. Everything's been clean, even though we've had a few offs and at least one car into the barriers.
Yeah, well, you mentioned there had been no pit stops, but actually I checked back on Elliot Huffman. He actually did make a pit stop at about lap 18 or so while he was stuck behind Doljon Bolja and Arthur Herman. I bet he was probably thinking he was stuck behind those guys, couldn't get past them, so he tried to make an early pit stop so he wouldn't get stuck behind them. But he's at the back of the GS field. Haven't seen anyone else go in so far.
Well, remember Tim Brokaw, we were talking about leading a train of cars. Well, both Jason Breifogel and Anthony Woodward have worked their way past him. Now Jason Breifogel's got to run on Anthony Woodward down the back stretch. They're coming up on the ST leaders, though. Are they going to try and dive up the inside? Yes, they are. This is going to catch Amjad Yaman out. He's trying to fight to hold on because he wants to stay with the lead car of James Stevenson in his class.
Oh, right behind them, James Alex Brown just went off.
Mora got into the back, just kind of did the maneuver there on Brown.
Look at the replay of that and see what exactly went on. Look at all those cars heading into that corner. It almost seemed like kind of inevitable that somebody was going to lose out. And from that angle, it looked like James kind of squeezed down on Mora, so I don't think
Yeah.
Mora did anything wrong there.
No, a second look at it, as well, I don't know where Mora was supposed to go on that one. I think he just got squeezed.
Yeah, car can't disappear, especially in the ST class. I know those guys are fighting hard, but there's some give and take there. Unfortunately, everyone was taken and nobody was given.
Well, Mora's battling to hang on to the leaders. I mean, he wants to let him by, but I mean, you can't. If you're gonna go on the outside, you got to go around the outside.
Yeah, and James Alex Brown doesn't seem to have hit the wall on that one, so he's able to just continue on just with a little bit of time loss, and he could get that back if we get a caution. Meanwhile, as we watch Jason Rifle continue to work on Anthony Woodward, he's going to get another try as they are back onto the backstretch once again. It looks like he might have another run, but they've got James Stevenson that they're working their way past, giving him plenty of room. Is he going to be able to have that draft pull him up alongside? He's getting very close. He takes a little bit of a look, but it looks like Anthony tries to cover off the racing line. Now he looks once again up on the inside. They're going to go 3 wide with him. Iata on the inside, but he sneaks on through and just get by that lapped car. Great stuff as he starts to drift wide, heading towards the next corner, though, and manages to hold on to the position. But wow, Jason Breifogel, brave move.
It's interesting to watch Stevenson able to hang on to the back of these cars through the twisty section. It's really not till the Mustangs get to put the foot down that they really start to pull away.
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of people who say that the Mustangs are slower through the corners than these MX-5s, so it can cost the MX-5s a little bit of time in some cases, and they certainly can't stop as fast as those little cars, so there's a very interesting dynamic between them in the corners as far as the way they interact and who's holding who up. Jason Breifogel did a great job of getting himself up into the top 10 now. Let's see what he can do from there. Meanwhile, let's check back on those leaders, Ayrton, and it looks like it's still about 3 seconds between Strodbeck and Bailey, so he's not really making huge inroads, excuse me. And he does have Steve Brown right behind him, so Steve is not dropping back either.
Yeah, I think Bailey actually just made a mistake in that previous lap, which allowed Steve Brown to catch back up. But previous to that, Nicholas Bailey was running identical laps, maybe even a little bit faster than Brian Strodbeck. So he has the pace, but he really has to cut out on those mistakes. And I'm not even sure if it was a mistake. I think it was just passing a lap car with Dave Wham, and it might have gotten stuck on the outside of a corner or something, which caused him to lose some time. But really, he has to try to take advantage of the traffic a little better in order to catch up to Brian Strodbeck.
Yeah, we mentioned at the top of the show that one of the things these guys are going to have to look out for is traffic and the way it's going to play between the two. And that's certainly been important. It sounds like we are going to go on board with Steve Brown and see what it's like to try and chase down second place Nicholas Bailey as now they head through Moss Corner and onto the backstretch. Let's see how good this draft is going to help them. And we're hearing word that George Britton has hit the wall in turn 5, where I can hear them talking to the marshals. It sounds like George Britton's day might be over. He is, he has exited and gotten permission to get his car towed back to the pit. So bad day for George Britton in that green AMS car as we continue to ride on board with Steve Brown. Let's see if we can get a replay of Britton and find out what exactly happened. It looked like he was in the barriers from what I could see.
Yeah, he blanked out on my screen, so I couldn't actually see. All I could see was him parked in the wall.
We're getting that replay spooled up, and here it is coming up to turn 4. So even though he was in turn 5, it looks like it all went down on that fast left hill down-hander. And whoa, that was he just veered right all of a sudden. That was some sort of hardware failure or something there. It sounds like he actually got loose, so maybe it wasn't a hardware failure. I was giving him the benefit of a doubt there.
Yeah, it looks like he might have just gone a little loose, tried to countersteer, then overcorrected. So classic mistake in the racing world, and I think he tried to get a caution to come out of it as well, but didn't get it.
And we're watching a battle between Arthur Chan and Gerd Yanis, and Yanis has the inside coming through 8. They're still side by side. Chan's going to have the inside of this next corner up through 9, but he backs out of it, doesn't carry the momentum well enough. Gerd Yanis is going to take the position. Oh, and whoa! And catches Dexter Castro out at the last moment.
Now you'll notice Dexter back there again. He is Mr. Excitement. He got loose and went way wide in Moss corner. So once again, he's going to have to pass those guys for a third time. And Yuri Yanis making his way up now to fourth place.
Dexter Castro's eyes must be bugging out as wide as ours did when we first saw that Lisa Frank paint scheme he's got going on there.
Talking about pit stops, Steve Brown in third place just headed into pits in the GS class.
So it's all starting to kick off now. We're only 40 minutes in. Is the gas mileage that steep on these guys? Because usually they can go about 50 minutes from what I understand, Ayrton.
Yeah, well, the window's fairly large. I mean, for the first stop, we saw Elliot Huffman going in super early. So I think these guys are just, if they get trapped behind someone, Steve Brown was behind Bailey right then. So maybe if he felt like he was faster and couldn't get by, just go for a pit stop and get some clean air.
We are watching a battle for fourth and fifth between Duljan Boldrin and Arthur Hermont. Somewhere along the line, Boldrin has gotten ahead of Hermont. I'm not sure if we'd seen that earlier, but Boldrin has been a little bit on the move. He started in seventh, so he's picked up 3 spots. He's not having too bad of a race. He's certainly going the opposite direction than his teammate is.
Yeah, some interesting contrast between the two.
Meanwhile, we've jumped over to a battle between Dexter Castro and Yared Yanis. Castro was working on Arthur Chan a little bit earlier, but since he's pitted, he's got a clear path to Yared Yanis, and this is a teammate. These are both 49 Motorsports guys, and this is for 4th position currently. So Castro is looking like he could potentially get himself up into a podium position here, though he's got a much longer way to get up to Sergio Mora.
Yeah, I'm not sure Dexter's going to be happy sitting. I mean, he'll be happy sitting back there if Giannis isn't slowing him down. But I think Dexter has visions of grandeur here today because he really is fast. I think there's a podium in sight for him. Real quick, I want to talk about the leaders in this category. Mora, I'm a little worried about now. He's had 2 taps on his left-hand side, once with Yaman and then again with that Mustang. I'm not sure. He's fallen a little bit off the pace. I think he might be suffering a bit.
Wonder if that's aero damage or if maybe his wheel got touched somewhere along the line and his handling is not what he'd like it to be. We'll see if maybe he gets a little bit of repair when the pit stops come, and maybe that'll help his pace. We don't know at the moment, but we are watching Amjad Yaman still in 2nd place, trying to hunt down James Stevenson. Now, Amjad has been one of the stories of this season. He, like we said, he's a rookie. He did have 1 race, I believe it was, at Homestead many seasons ago in this series, but other than that, he counts as a rookie still. And he's got, I believe, 2 wins to his name already, the first 2 of the season, and has really been in contention for the championship since then. And right now, he has just been holding on to the back of James Stevenson. And Bill, we know Amjad is the doctor. He is a very smart driver, and I have a feeling he's displaying that right now. I think he's got something up his sleeve with how he's been riding those coattails for a bit now.
Yeah, you don't want to bet against him when it comes to pit stop strategy. You know, I've been watching this race really closely, trying to figure out if he's holding on with the draft or if he's faster. And from what I can tell, I see him closing on some of these sweeping corners. I think he has the pace for Stevenson, which is, you know, that's pretty surprising because Stevenson, well, he's a 3-time champion. But if you watch him, he's right there through. Watch him come through this corner. He won't lose much ground at all through Moss Corner at all.
Very aggressive on that inside curve, but he made it work, had a very good exit there. And keep in mind, James Stevenson qualified 4th. Amjad is still where he qualified, however. So James Stevenson is slightly out of position of what his qualified implied. In fact, in practice, James was only in 3rd, and Amjad had the fastest times. So Amjad, I think you're right. Amjad's no slouch around here, as they've got James Alex Brown coming up behind him, but he's going to have to wait until after these S's to try and sneak by.
You know, when we get a chance, I'd like to ask Ayrton what he thinks is faster coming out of the pits. Is cold tires faster than worn tires? Do you think you're going to lose ground on somebody if you make a short pit and don't change tires? Do you think you're going to lose a lot of ground with cold tires compared to warm used tires?
I think cold tires are faster straight out of the pits, but they have a lot more. I mean, they're a lot less predictable. So the drivers are more likely to spin out or make a mistake on colder tires than worn tires. But they will eventually, within a couple laps, they'll be quite a bit faster.
So I'm wondering if we'll see guys who have shades of Juan Pablo Montoya being very good on cold tires, making the best of those and figuring out where that threshold is on those tires. And that could play into their hands very nicely later on down the line. But right now, James Stevenson continues to lead in the ST class. In fact, let's go through that top 5 in each class real quick since we started on the ST. Amjad Yaman is in second. Sergio Mora is dropping back in third. Dexter Castro is in fourth, and Yair Yanis is sitting in fifth. What's the GS looking like?
Well, we're right in the middle of the pit cycle at the moment, but Doljon Boldrin is in the lead. Right behind him is Arthur Hermont. Then in third is Panu Pasanen. Fourth, Matthew Oak. And fifth is Brian Strodbeck.
See now, I'm sorry,
ahead.
Joe, just to talk. The guys who have made their pits like Arthur Chan, if a full course yellow were to come out right now, they would be golden because the field would bunch up and then drivers would come in for their pit stop and those drivers who have already pitted would go to the front. Am I not correct in my thinking there?
Yeah, I believe that would be the case. However, there would still be one more stop unless we had a lot of late yellows. And the way this race is going right now, it's been fairly clean, which is surprising considering how tight the action has been between the classes. So, I don't know. If I was a crew chief, I would not be betting on trying a one-stopper in this thing, that's for sure.
And talking about the pit stops, Steve Brown actually managed to get ahead of Nicholas Bailey just through the pit stops. Bailey actually had a pretty slow stop. He was 4 seconds behind Brian Strodbeck before the stops, and now he's 6 seconds back. So he lost a whole 2 seconds, and in that time, Steve Brown managed to get by him. So a little bit of slow pit stop for Bailey, but maybe he took a little bit more fuel and then to take less in the second stop. So it might be a strategic choice.
And we have Mora in the pits now for the MX-5 class.
So Mora has now, in fact, he's finished his pit stop and he is coming back in. And I don't believe Yaman and Stevenson have taken their stops yet. Is that correct?
Right. Now I'm looking at Mora right now. He came in, he'd had a long stop. He took tires.
I'm sorry, guys. We've had a change for the ST lead. Stevenson is behind Yaman. Interesting. We have missed a major event here. Unfortunately, somehow, James Stevenson has allowed a Yaman to slip by there. Now, it could have potentially been when the GS car of James Brown was trying to get by them. We're not entirely sure. We'll see if maybe we can send Bill back to figure out when exactly.
I'm looking right
down.
now.
So Yaman is going to get a lead a lap bonus since they do have bonus points for that in this series, and that's going to help him out. The question is, when are those guys going to stop? And is that going to help Sergio Mora? Now, did anybody see if Mora took on tires? And we're hearing that there's a battle for the GS lead, and that is between Doljon Boldrin and Arthur Hermont.
Well, it wasn't much of a battle. Hermont got the draft, went to the inside on the end of the straight, and just flew on by. So, a short-lived battle, but Hermont now the GS leader.
And I did find the pass for the lead in the MX-5 class. Stevenson got a little wide on the corner, and Amjad Yaman took advantage, and now Stevenson has got right back behind him. And yes, Mora did take tires, a full load of fuel, it looks like, and 4 tires.
So it looks like he is opting for those cooler tires, but now James Stevenson is trying to run down Yaman. I think he's got the draft here. He might be able to pull that back on him. Does he have enough momentum as they come down the Mario Andretti straight? I think he's a little too far back. It doesn't look like he's got enough speed.
And just to follow up, put a final point on Mora's pit stop, he came out just ahead of Arthur Chan. So those are your 2 guys, leaders who have pitted once.
You know, we were talking about the pit stops. Yaman was following behind those guys for quite a while, and you seem to think that he had more pace. We're 50 minutes in, which is about the time these guys are going to start running out of fuel. If he can go longer than James, I wonder if he was trying to save fuel there.
Well, see, that's the question I had for Ayrton. If Stevenson has to come in early and he comes out on cold tires, is Yaman going to make more time running 1 hot lap on used tires than Stevenson's going to do running 1 hot lap on new cold tires?
Well, million dollar question.
We will find out, won't we?
Yeah, well, it looks like Amjad is not getting away with this cleanly, though, because Stevenson is really holding on to the back bumper of that 49 Motorsports machine, that Child's Play machine ahead of him in the green and black. And I think we've seen very patient drivers up front here for most of today, as they've got Jason Rifle getting ready to lap. So I don't know if he's going to be. He doesn't look terribly anxious to try and get by him. He doesn't look very aggressive at this point.
Boy, and the Mustangs have a battle up there. I know that's not where I'm supposed to be, but I stumbled across it. Boy, they are 1 and 2 up there, aren't they?
Yeah, Hermont and Boldrin are still very close together. So both classes have the top cars right next to each other. Just behind them, you see James Alex Brown. However, he is a lap down car, so he is not in this battle as they come around Moss Quarter. But Boldrin taking a bit of a tidier line. Is that going to help him out at the exit? He is certainly staying very close, so he's going to have the draft on Arthur Hermont, his teammate, heading up the hill.
Now, the interesting thing about these guys is that on these worn tires, they're running about 2 seconds slower than Brian Strodbeck on his new tires. So that just shows the difference in speed between the old tires and new tires.
Now, something that was mentioned a little bit earlier that unfortunately I didn't get to is Stefan Overgaard, for some reason, is 6 laps down. Now, Bill, did you catch what happened to Stefan there?
I did not, but he's worth giving a look for. So when things settle down, I will actually go back and find out what happened to our friend.
So we are going to try and investigate there and see what happened to that AMS driver. Now, we keep talking about the tire model, Eric, and being new out there. One of the things I think maybe we should explain to our audience is how the degradation plays into things now, especially longtime watchers who haven't played iRacing.
Yeah, well, the longer the race goes, the more degradation the tires have, and the more difficult it is for the tires to have grip in the corners, and that just causes the cars to be a lot slower generally around the track in lap times.
So there, it sounds like there's quite a bit of trade-off, and like Bill was asking, is it faster to try and get on those fresh tires a little bit earlier, try the undercut, or is it worth, going long on that second stint? These are the questions these guys are having to answer.
Well, I'm going to butt in, Jim. Somebody knows the answer is going to be Amjad Yaman, so how he plays this is going to tell me a lot.
He is continuing to lead currently, and in fact, he's just behind Matthew Reinhold, who he's trying to lap, and he's got James Stevenson still all over the back of him. They still don't go into the pits, though, and we are past the 50-minute mark at this point. So these guys are stretching their fuel pretty far. He's trying to find a way past Matthew Reinhold, and Reinhold now finally gives him more of the inside line, but he's not making it terribly easy. In fact, it looks like he might split them coming up to turn 2. Is Stevenson going to try and go around the outside? Yes, he is. Ooh, and he backs out of it. I was going to say, I don't know if I'd be that brave. This is going to be indicative. Does James Stevenson have the pace to close back up on Amjad Yaman now that he's been balked by Matthew Reinhold?
Yeah, it's quite a battle. Hey, again, I'm going to step out of my area where I'm supposed to be. Have the 3 Mustangs, the top 3 guys, pitted? Has Strodbeck pitted? So that is the running order up there. 1, 2, 3. And Strodbeck has fresh tires. That's interesting.
Well, Strodbeck is not back in the lead yet, though, because Hermont and Boldrin have not, or excuse me, Boldrin has stopped in, but Hermont has not, so Hermont stays out. He is leading, but he is going to drop a lot of time. In fact, looking at the gap between him and Strodbeck, Hermont is going to lose a lot of time. He is way far back from where he initially started on that pole position.
Yeah, I think the strategy is there is that these guys are going to try to make it so they have to put as little fuel as possible in their second stop so that they gain time for the second stop. They lost a lot of time in that first stop because they ran so long on those worn tires.
So as we watch him work his way around Richard Losper there on the backstretch, as well as Jared Yanis, and I believe that is James Brown, excuse me, there going by.
And since you're talking about Stevenson, he is in the pits for second place now, so this will be interesting to see. I think he is. Stevenson is in.
We had a bit of
Sorry, for you guys at home, I'm talking to our director.
For once, we actually knew a little bit more than he did, but that means Amjad Yaman continues on. So maybe he was saving fuel. This is intriguing out there. James Stevenson is in, and Jared Yanis continues on. Now, Jared Yanis, has he pitted yet? I can't recall.
I don't believe so.
He has not. Neither, I believe, has Richard Losper. Those guys are not going to be gaining positions as they work their way past James Stevenson, who is still in his stall. So he's making a long stop this time for this first stint here.
Really, who we want to watch, if we can take the director to find Sergio Mora, because really he's our benchmark here. See if he can get out ahead of Stevenson.
Well, he's coming up to the final turn. Stevenson has just exited his pit stall as we watch Mora come across the line. Stevenson now comes out of the pit exit. He's still behind the wall in turn 1, though. Sergio Mora is just coming around there. It's very, very close. I think Mora actually gained some time.
Yeah, I think he made up a little time on the pits.
So, interestingly, with Mora's earlier stop, it could potentially have been the fact that he took on a little less fuel to top off. He had a 30-second stop, which was 11 seconds shorter than James Stevenson.
And here comes Yaman into the pits.
So, now Yaman comes in for his first stop of the day. Hour and 5 minutes to go, so that means he is probably not going to be able to one-stop it unless we get at least 2 yellows, I'm going to say, for him to be able to stretch that one out. So James Stevenson continues on around. The question is, where is he going to come out in comparison? He is on the backstretch right now as we watch Nicholas Bailey work on Steve Brown. In fact, very close on the back of Steve Brown.
Now Yaman's taking tires.
Did Stevenson take tires? There's the question as well.
He was in for a long time. I got to figure he took tires on that stop.
It seems... Yaman is now coming out of the pits. His was 30 seconds as well, so he must be taking a short stop on this first one. Where is James Stevenson? James Stevenson is just now coming around the final turn, turn 10, and Yaman is already onto the track. Yaman has very, very clearly jumped him. He has gapped him by a significant amount, but he was 11 seconds quicker on that pit stop.
Yeah, really, we know nothing because we don't know how much fuel Yaman put in. We don't know how much fuel Stevenson put in, how much fuel they're going to need at the end.
So as they come across the line, it looks like Yaman is going to continue to lead. Yeryanis, I believe Yeryanis has made his stop, actually, now that I'm looking. No,
he should be your leader, I think. This hasn't cycled through yet, so he's
Richard
the last guy to do it.
Losper, however, has made a stop, I'm seeing.
I think Giannis is our last one in the MX-5 class.
So I get. So it sounds like Giannis, Vordas, and Asbury are our last guys that are waiting to pit. Giannis, however, he must not have gotten by the line, excuse me, before Amjad Yaman had crossed it while in the pits. Hence why I got confused there. Now Yeryanis has stretched his fuel absolutely to the limit and is coming in for his stop with an hour and 3 minutes left to go. So of all the people poised to try and make this thing a one-stopper if we get a caution, Yanis is sitting pretty out of all of them.
Now, Ayrton, you saw this in the last race you called at Watkins Glen, where they were all close before the first pit cycle. Then they got spread out because of different pit strategies. And then when it all played out, they ended all back up together again.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of the double pit stop nature of this kind of race of 2 hours long.
Oh, we need to switch to Nicholas Bailey, who just got into the back of Steve Brown, and Stefan Overgaard, I think, got punted as well. If we can get a quick replay on that.
Stefan Overgaard got loose in front of the 2 Mustangs, and that's what happened. Then he got collected.
We're watching that replay. This is coming through turn 3, and yeah, you called it right there. It just I was checking on those leaders, and wow, all of those guys, huge heads up there. That could have been way, way worse.
Now Giannis is coming out of the pits right now, so I imagine he's going to file in probably maybe third. We'll see how he files in relationship to Sergio Mora.
Mora is past, Chan is past, Dexter Castro is past. And in fact, it looks like Richard Losper is going to be right on the back of Yanis. Now, remember, where was Yanis before all these pit stops started to take place? I believe he was sitting in 4th, wasn't he?
Yeah, so that cost him. But again, for the viewers at home, we have no idea. He may have got a full load. He may be looking just to gas and go at the end, while other guys may need to take on more.
But at the moment, he does have that AMS Motorsports machine right behind him. That seems to be the theme recently in CESCS as those 2 teams grow. Asbury Motorsports and 49 Motorsports have a lot of very talented MX-5 ST drivers. So these guys seem to be facing off everywhere we look. I thought Losper was going to close up on the back of Yanis, but it seems like the fresh tires on Yanis are allowing him to just keep him at arm's length right now as we watch Dualjean Boldrin and his teammate Arthur Hermont still battling. In fact, just ahead of them, Panu Paisanen is for position. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th at the moment, Ayrton.
It is actually interesting because Panu Paisanen was behind these guys before the pit stops. He managed to get up ahead of these guys and slotted into 5th place. So, yeah, and he was actually a lot farther back. So either Boldrin and Hermont just had really slow stops, or Paisanen just maybe he didn't take tires or something like that, where he got really good lead.
Hard to say at this point. As we keep mentioning, a lot of the strategies are really varying, which is great to see in this series. Sometimes it's a little boring when things are all just the same out there and you can kind of predict exactly what people are going to do. But right now, these three are keeping it plenty exciting as Paisanen goes a little bit wide coming out of Moss Corner, and Hermont tries to use that run to chase him down the backstretch. As we keep seeing, the draft is pulling guys in, and right now Boldrin has got a good one. Even though these cars have some grunt, it's helping him up the hill. He's closing in. Is he going to try and dive in the inside? They've got Amjad Yaman coming up, and Yaman just gives them a little bit of room as they try to hug the inside coming through 8, but he is not giving up. As now they switch back, he's got the inside of the next corner. It looks like they're going to weave their way by one as it gets very tight. Paisanen almost runs into Yaman, who actually gets a better run than him at first, and now they start to pull away down the back stretch, or front stretch, excuse me. And he's still not completely giving up, as Boldrin now is trying to work his way past, hopefully before turn 2, or this is going to get messy.
Oh, careful, Amjad. Oh.
And now he backs out of it. I was going to say, he needs to give up the ghost on that one. Let these guys by. They are battling hard for close positions as Hermont takes a look coming up into turn 3, but he can't make it happen. Paisanen chops him off at the nose, coming around that fast right-hander. Now they're going to plunge down the hill. Is he going to try it up into turn 5? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from this battle, but I also just want to quickly mention that Elliot Huffman, we mentioned him earlier, he pitted extremely early. Around like lap 16 or so, and he's through all the pit cycles managed to get himself up to 4th place. But the difference with that though is that he did not take tires while everyone else did take tires during this pit stop, so he's going to have to take tires in the next one. I'm interested to see if he'll be able to still get ahead of these guys. He's battling with those guys that we were just looking at, Paisanen, Boldrin, and Hermont, while they're actually going side by side in 7th right now.
Yeah, and that is Boldrin, who's got the inside coming up through there, and it looks like he's going to try his best to force his way past, and he does, as Paisanen finally gives up the ghost, and they slot back into line coming through turn 9, and now it looks like it's Arthur Hermont's turn to try and work his way past. I wonder if these guys, if Paisanen just doesn't have the pace, and he had worked his way by through strategies. Whoa, a dive up the inside into turn 1 is brave stuff from Hermont. He really wants by. He is clearly desperate to try and get by at this point halfway through the race. He knows his strategy could be wrecked if he gets held up too long, but he was not able to do it. But turn 1 isn't that big of a braking zone from what I understand, Ayrton. That was ambitious to say the least.
Yeah, I think he was just hoping that his good exit from the final corner was enough to get the pass, but definitely there's really not that many passing zones here. Really just after the straight, you have to have a good run and get alongside of a driver. He's diving into a lot of these corners. It's really dangerous.
Well, as those guys battle, Steve Brown still, or actually no, he's not still in 2nd place. Somewhere along the line, Nicholas Bailey has moved up into 2nd, so those guys have swapped positions in the last lap. And Brown is very loose coming out of the final corner, and that's going to lose him some time.
Good save by Steve Brown. That's really tricky.
Especially if you put those back wheels off into the dirt while you're sliding, I'd say it's good night, because that wall on the inside is right there.
Yeah, these guys keep on losing time to Brian Strodbeck, and I don't think it's actually their speed. They have about the same speed as Strodbeck, but they just keep on getting unlucky with lap traffic, and also just the fact of them battling a little bit. Bailey, just in that lap alone, Bailey lost 2nd to Brian Strodbeck. So these guys really have to be careful about that, and they're just getting really unlucky with the lap traffic as well.
Well, Bailey now has a little bit of clear road behind him at least, so he doesn't have to defend as hard unless Steve Brown catches him up. If he can just get out of that draft, then I think he might be able to start putting the hammer down, maybe try to close in on Stradbeck. Just real quick, don't forget that we are on Twitter at GSR Channel, so if you want to contact us through social media, ask us questions during the race, we are keeping an eye on that. We'll try to answer them. So send those our way if you're wondering what is going on with certain things, or if you're unsure about certain rules in this series. It does mirror the real-world Continental Tire Endurance Series as closely as possible, and that is one thing that Ayrton, I think, makes this a pretty special league.
Yeah, just how accurate we go to a lot of the same tracks. They try to get the same cars from the GS and ST class. The Mustang is in the real-life GS class, and the MX-5 is in the real-life ST class. So, yeah, I mean, Wes Eric does a really good job for this league.
You know, I want to ditto what Ayrton just say. Wes Eric does a great job with this league. It really is a superior league. Hey, real quick to follow up on, we're looking at like 56 minutes now till the white flag. How soon could these guys pit, guys? Are we there yet? Because if I'm on the pit box, I'm calling them in at the first available opportunity.
Well, considering we saw a car go until about 57 minutes, I think we're into the pit window potentially. Now, whether or not a driver can make that sort of fuel across that stint is the bigger question. So guys could be coming in if they think they can make it. And at this point, you really don't lose much, I think, unless you're awful on old tires towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I think we have about 5 minutes, and then we're going to see a lot of drivers heading into the pits for their last stop.
Now, what's interesting from my side is Arthur Chan's in 4th place. He pitted on the 24th lap, or he was the first guy to pit. So he's really done well so far with his strategy.
Meanwhile, we're watching Matthew Reinhold and Heng Ho Tao. This is for 8th and 9th position between these two. So this is for position, this battle, as Reinhold has the outside and slightly better momentum coming up to turn 8. The question is, can he hold on around the outside? And it looks like he is going to be able to, and sneaks himself up into 8th now. So, Reinhold doing his best as Heng Ho Tao hops into the pits. Now, yes, Heng Ho Tao has taken his first stop. So, Heng Ho Tao is one of the early pitters for this second stop, apparently thinking going long for this final stint.
And pitting from 8th place, he's a lap, looks maybe 1 lap down, but this will be, this kind of says if he can pit that we're going to see guys coming in pretty quick, I think.
Well, you know, one of the things that I was wondering about, though, since we have the degradation now, I kind of wonder if you do that early stop, if you get a late caution, even though you're going to get that track position for anybody who doesn't come in, you have much older tires. So even though you've got the track position, can you hold on, even though this track is very hard to pass at, for the rest of the race, especially if you've got faster guys behind you?
Yeah, but see, if Heng Ho Tao comes out now and he gets lucky and we get a full course caution, he's going to get up all this time. He's going to get a lap back. He's going to come out golden, I think.
He's going to come out very well, but he's going to have to hold on to that for quite a while, and everybody else is going to have fresher tires than he will. So it's a big what if. What, you know, these guys are going to have to start doing runs and whatnot, and taking tires and seeing what exactly would get you the best time if you have an ideal run. So these guys, you know, this is where Ayrton, I think a crew chief is going to come hugely in handy now that we've got so many variables.
Yeah, and you mentioned about whether it would be better to have those fresh tires or having that track position. I personally think the track position is better. We've seen so much. I mean, if you're just looking at the battle between Boltrin, Paisinen, and Hermont is clearly the faster driver, but just can't get ahead of Paisinen. And so, like, we've seen so many examples so far this race of how difficult it is to pass, especially for the GS guys. I'm not so sure about the ST guys, since I think they get quite a bit better draft on the straights, but the GS guys really struggle.
And we saw Hermont take another look into turn 1, and we are on the back bumper of Boltrin, who stays defensive into 2, interestingly, just momentarily. But Paisinen is really on the back of him, so these guys aren't running away from Paisinen. They could just be close on pace here.
it's definitely hard to tell. Aldrin can still feel quite threatened, and obviously if you have a lot of pressure, fast driver behind you, you're going to make mistakes on some of the corners, so that could be a factor as well.
And it sounds like we got a battle in ST going on.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on Arthur Chan, and he is running down Sergio Mora. Now, I know these drivers pretty well. I got a hunch that Arthur's having a great race, and Sergio Mora might have a little damage on his car, as Arthur's really closing on him.
Yeah, Chan has been looking quite handy, sitting in 4th currently and qualified in 5th, so he's 1 position up. But even with that mistake that probably lost him, I would assume, maybe 3 or 4 positions on the first lap, he has come back up and, like you said, looking handy to try and get himself onto the podium, as they've got an GS car of Jonathan Auger working his way in between them now, coming down into the braking zone of turn 5, Moss Corner.
And I'm sorry, Joe, Yaman has come in from the lead to make his pit stop, so he just pitted.
So Yaman doing his usual long, short, long for his pit strategy. Now, where does that slot him? So Yaman has come out in 4th, and Stevenson continues on. So what is Stevenson going to do in all of this? Is he going to employ the same strategy, or is he going to try and go alternate to him to see if that gives him a slight advantage? Does he want to try and race him directly on track? We'll find out soon enough. He stays out this time by as James Stevenson goes on. He's going to lead a lap this time around.
Yeah, now if I'm Stevenson's pit crew chief, I'm saying stay out as long as you can, as long as traffic is clear, because Yaman's got stuff to fight through now because he's in a mess.
But Amjad, well, this could be a huge disadvantage for Yaman because he's also potentially on fresh tires. Did you see if he took tires last time?
No, well, he took tires. This was his short stint, so no, he took tires on when he filled up long. So he's on nice warm tires. He's got pretty good tires right now.
Aha. So.
And Stevenson's in the same situation. He took tires as well.
So tires will not be as much of a factor, although Yaman's will be, let's see, was it 1 lap difference between their pit stops?
Oh, I think maybe a couple laps. Well, I guess, yeah, a couple laps difference, I would say.
So he'll have slightly fresher tires, ever so slightly. I'm not sure if it's going to make enough of a difference come the end of the race, but we'll see if they come out together. In fact, right now, though, Amjad Yaman has his teammate of Hang Ho Tao just ahead of him, so I'm thinking Hang is not going to give him too much of a hassle. I think this is actually lapped between, there's a lap between these 2 drivers, so I don't think there's anything for him to fight for at this point, even if they were off strategy together.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Yaman's having a hard time getting any kind of pace this lap because of traffic, and meanwhile his competitor Stevenson's out there running in nice clean track, waiting to come in when he wants to.
And if there's one thing we know Stevenson for, it's consistency and precision of being able to get out there and just rifle off fast lap after fast lap. So this is really playing into the hands of Stevenson.
Stevenson's in right now, so this will be for the race lead.
And right now, Yaman is heading up the backstretch. In fact, he is heading through turn 8, and now his teammate backs off and lets him through. This could help him quite a bit. Where is Stevenson?
Oh, Stevenson is taking left side tires.
Interesting.
I thought he took it on when he took his long stop. He's only taking it on the left side. You know, maybe he's taking it on both sides.
So I guess he wants to have fresher tires at the end, and this is slowing him down significantly because Amjad Yaman is clearly past. He's going to have a big gap. He's going to have older tires, but he is going to have a long bit of buffer between himself and James Stevenson. And considering that Yaman is ahead in the championship at this moment, this is going to help Amjad Yaman out a lot to get himself another win under his belt over Stevenson.
That's why our lead commentator nicknamed him the Doctor, because nobody, and I mean nobody, is better at pit stop strategy than the Doctor.
We were getting a bit of information from our director I didn't quite pick out during that. We're getting word that the gap is 12 seconds between Yaman and Stevenson at the moment. So if Stevenson really does have better pace, then he should have time to try and close down that 12-second gap. But we'll have to wait and see. There could be traffic to come into play. There could be all kinds of things. We could have a caution, and those two could be right on top of each other. Meanwhile, Sergio Mora has not taken his second stop yet, has he?
No, he is not. He should be our leader, I would think. I have to check my notes here.
Yes, this time by Sergio Mora has now moved himself up into the lead. He's going to get a lead a lap bonus, I believe, if he did not earlier in the race. Just coming out of the pits with him is Matthew Reinhold, who is a lap down. He's got a bunch of traffic with the green and white car of Philip Carpenter just behind them. Look at the gaggle of cars. Actually, is that Arthur Chan? Arthur Chan is with Sergio Mora still.
Right.
So
They're running 1-2. They have yet to make their pit stop.
So 46 minutes left on the clock. Let's go through top 5 real quick and try and remember who has stopped for their second time, who has not. Steve Brown currently leads in the GS cars, followed by Nicholas Bailey. Then Brian Strodbeck is in 3rd, and Dualjean Boldrin is in 4th. Arthur Hermont is in 5th, and I don't believe anybody of the top 5 Mustangs has come in for their second stop.
Actually, Strodbeck and Bailey have both pitted.
So that gives us an inclination on those guys. Meanwhile, what is our top 5 in the ST?
Well, on the track, it's Mora and Chan, but I think they're going to cycle out probably 3rd and 4th when the pit stops are done. Yaman and Stevenson are running 3rd and 4th right now, but they've made their stop. And Yuri Yanis is in 5th, and if my director can tell me if Yanis has been in, I think he has been in. So it's going to be, yeah, Yanis has got ahead of Castro, so it's going to be interesting if Yanis can come out ahead of Mora and Chan here when these guys come in. I hope I didn't confuse everybody. Mora, Chan, Yaman, Stevenson, and Yanis, but Mora and Chan still need to come in. There, I'm done.
Arthur Chan is stopping in for his pit stop, though, right now. Sergio Mora does not. And Steve Brown is finally coming in, and he was battling with Nicholas Bailey before, so we need to see where these guys come out as far as timing goes, because this is whoever is out ahead is going to have the advantage towards till the end of the race, and it's going to have to be done on track. So as Steve Brown still sits in his stall, Bailey is actually caught behind Boldrin right now and is trying to work his way past, and these guys have not pitted yet, so they're off strategy, but they're not making life easy. They're slowing him down as he is trying to go around the inside on turn 1, just manages to sneak by, and there's Steve Brown coming out right next to him, but he is behind him. In fact, he's got the car of Arthur Hermont between them now. I'm sorry, that I called that Dualjean Boldrin before. He's going to have to try and work his way past, and Hermont goes defensive coming up to turn 3. He does not know that he is not fighting these guys. He's off strategy. He is just making life horrible. Squeezes him off to the outside as Steve Brown starts to lose ground on Nicholas Bailey. This is for 2nd and 3rd place potentially between these two, as all of these guys, even though they are fighting for position, I keep saying they are off strategy from one another. So this is throwing everybody for a loop. And look at Bailey just really get on the power too early and just burns up those back tires.
Yeah, Hermont doesn't want to lose Boldrin, and Brown doesn't want to lose Bailey, so these guys are all really fighting for those positions really hard.
And now they are coming up on James Stevenson just to top it off, and it looks like they might be able to clear him. Steve Brown might not be able to. Oh, he gets caught out. He's going to be slightly compromised as Stevenson is working on getting as good a laps as possible. Chops him off just slightly, not a whole lot. And now, finally, Arthur Hermont dives into the pits and lets him free to try and chase down Nicholas Bailey. Frantic stuff with 43 minutes to go. Now James Stevenson, excuse me, lets Steve Brown on by to try and chase down his competitor. Nicholas Bailey, you have to say, running a fantastic race, got himself on the podium looking at a 2nd position today. Even though he's not up close to Brian Strodbeck, he is still running quite well and is still trying to get his way around Dualjean Boldrin, who is just balking him all over the place. Went defensive coming into turn 3, didn't get as good an exit as you'd want coming out of there. Now coming down to turn 4, he's trying to sneak on the inside, has to back out of it. You can't go too wide through there, Nicholas. Be patient, tries to outbrake him coming into Moss Corner. This roadblock as he goes off to the side. Arthur Hermont now finally lets him free, but he comes back in front of Steve Brown just as he was starting to catch up to Nicholas Bailey. And so Steve Brown has to work by yet another 8 or 80 car.
And even without Bailey and Brown getting the win for this race, they're both going to get a huge gap in the championship, and closing the gap on Swanlin, Patrick Fieri, and I think Sean Vandergriff as well. So this race, even if they're just second and third on the podium, it's going to be really good, good chance for them in the championship.
Very much so, and Dualjon Boldrin heads into the pit. So, without him, without having to actually pass him on track, this means that Steve Brown is not going to lose too much time. In fact, you can see the gap as we look back from Nicholas Bailey, that he is not too far back. That draft could bring it right back into things, Aaron. The battle for second, after some crazy laps with some various traffic, is back on.
Yeah, these guys have been battling all race. Neither have been able to get each other off each other, and both of them have been the front driver, both of them have been the following driver, so really good battle between these guys.
And we were getting a bit of information I didn't quite make out. Apologize, we didn't actually, as we jumped to Panu Pasanen, who was battling with Dualjon Boldrin and whatnot before, but seems to be by himself right now. Except that he has Anthony Woodward right behind him, and I believe that is for position. Yes, this is for 11th and 12th, and last time by, Woodward was scored ahead of him, so Pasanen has actually recently got by him, in fact. And we've got Brown on Bailey now. It looks like he has already got past him before even the end of the backstretch. That was a clean move. I wonder if there was a mistake by Bailey coming out of Moss Corner. Oh, and he got balked by a 49 car. Was that Dexter Castro? Oh my gosh, we need to see the replay of this, actually. I'm not sure if we can zip back. Coming out of Moss Corner, hopefully we can get this. We have to scoot back just a little bit farther. This was daring stuff. As now we're coming down to turn 4. You can see that is Dexter Castro. Or no, I'm sorry, that is Hang Ho Tao just in front of him. Excuse me, Hang Ho Tao, my apologies. You know, he balks Nicholas Bailey. He gets slowed up coming out of a corner where you really need the power down. Watch Steve Brown absolutely splits the pair of them with nothing to spare and breezes past. That, to me, Ayrton, that is the pass of the race for me, for Steve Brown.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a great opportunity of a little bit of mistake from Bailey, but really good. And now Bailey is the following car. I'm interested to see how he'll be able to handle. They've got a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Amjad Yaman in the ST class, so probably going to pass him on the straight, so no worries for him.
And Yaman is still our ST leader at the moment with a quite handy gap back to James Stevenson. And this is going to help him even more because now that they're going to breeze on by on the straight, he doesn't have to deal with those two cars. But as it stands for those top 3 now that Steve Brown has gotten past, Brian Strabeck is still in the lead. We haven't seen a whole lot of him today. Steve Brown is in 2nd, and Nicholas Bailey is in 3rd. So those are our top 3 in the GS class. We're looking at Elliot Huffman at the moment, who has closed in on the back of Dualjon Boldrin in 5th. This is for position.
Yeah, I was also looking at to see where Dualjon Boldrin would come out in relation to Arthur Herman, and I actually couldn't find Herman on the track, and he actually crashed coming out of pit lane. He accelerated too quickly because he was in the number 1 pit stall and just smashed into the barrier and exited his car.
Oh, that is an embarrassing way to end your race. Now, I want to touch on something. Has anybody noticed if Matthew Oak has taken his 2nd stop?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, I was going to say, he's not a slow driver by any means. He's usually a mid-packer. So to see him up in 4th, I was about to say that he's having a very good race, but it sounds like he's going to slot down the order once more. But still, he's kind of been having a race all by his lonesome for most of this race. We haven't seen a lot of him. If he's had battles, they've certainly been off camera so far. Currently sitting in 4th with about 10 seconds back to Dualjon Boldrin. So that's going to slot him back. Do we know what our bogey time is, actually? We're getting some ridiculous information from our director currently. From what I could tell, though, I think it looks like he's going to be somewhere back in 7th or 8th from what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the top lane, top 10 for the majority of the race, and I think he was actually ahead of Andre Trago before stops, but I'm not sure if Andre Trago is pitted or not.
Well, meanwhile, we were looking on screen as Matthew Reinbold was making life difficult for Nicholas Bailey and Steve Brown, who worked their way past in the S's, and they closed up for just a moment, but now Steve Brown has stretched it once again as they took off another lap. They are now on lap 54 with 37 minutes left on the clock. We are almost to 3/4 of the way in. We're getting down to the final corner very soon here. So as things have started to settle out around the track, unless we've got a battle going on at the moment, I think it's about time that we take just a little bit of a break. We'll come back in a moment and get you updated if anything has changed. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, watching round 7 of the CESCS as we watch Brian Strodbeck continue to lead the way here, and has for pretty much since lap 1, after he took the lead away from Arthur Hermont, who had the pole and strangely dropped back and has not had the pace since. But the story of the day has been the battle for second between Steve Brown and Nicholas Bailey, and these guys have been pulling off some brave and fantastic moves. Right now, Bailey is the car behind in that blue and white machine, that Garmin machine, and he is very close to the back bumper of Steve Brown. And I don't think he's going to have anything coming into turn 1, even though we've seen some guys trying to make some moves. But if he stays this close until the backstretch, Ayrton, he could have an opportunity.
Yeah, these guys are almost identical in pace. I think the only chance of making it past be if Steve Brown makes a mistake or if Nicholas Bailey just gets an incredible exit coming out of turn 7 going on to the backstretch. So that's really the only opportunities unless they get more ST traffic. But ahead of them, there isn't actually much. Actually, there's a little bit of GS traffic ahead of him, Jonathan Auger and Tim Brokaw.
And wow, he is really close now. If he can just hold on to this into the braking, look at Brown go defensive into 5. He knows there's opportunities there. He really needs to focus on this exit. Both of them taking a very good line through there. Brown just slightly better, but it looks like Bailey is within the draft as they head down the Mario Andretti straight.
Yeah, I'm interested to see when it comes down to the closing laps of these races, if drivers would prefer to stay on the outside or defend the inside going to this turn 8, because we've seen passes on either side and done really well in both classes.
Just not quite enough for Nicholas Bailey to close up in time down that backstretch as he still holds onto the back. There is nary a tenth or two between them for the last couple laps, and it looks like it's going to stay that way as they get ready to come across the line to take on lap 58. This is still, once again, for second position as we are on board with Steve Brown looking back across the spoiler on that Garmin car. So as we watch that, one of the things that we should mention, Bill, is you noted that Arthur Chan had used strategy to his advantage.
Yeah, I haven't seen Arthur have a race like this in a long time. It's really nice to see. He's running third right now. He came out, he jumped Sergio Mora in the pit lane, and he has the pace to stay in front of him. You know, the MX-5 class is pretty much settled down with Yaman has a nice 13-second lead or so ahead of Stevenson. Chan is running third, Mora's running fourth. Giannis and Castro are comfortably in 5th and 6th. Losper's back in 7th, and Reinhold rounding out the top 8th. Hango Tao, nice race in 9th, and Whammo? Is that David Whammo? Is that what we're calling? Wrapping up the top 10.
Yeah, good old David Whammo. He doesn't always have the best results, but we saw him have a very good season last season, and his consistency paid off, getting him pretty far up in the championship points, if I remember correctly.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. Carl Williamson, by the way, is still out there. He just can't get a break. He needs a yellow flag.
Yeah, we were saying earlier that that's all he needed to get his lap back and get back into this thing, but boy, it seems like racer's luck. When you need something to happen, it just never seems to come your way. I thought I heard a car hit something a little bit earlier, but I couldn't quite figure out who it was on track. So, and seeing as how we don't have a caution yet, I'm guessing that nothing came of it, whatever it was. So Arthur Chan up into the podium position. We also noted...
Joe, I think we had a problem with Dexter Castro.
Oh no, Castro after... Oh, and he stopped. Castro is stopped on the backstretch. Let's see if I can figure out what exactly happened. That was quite a while ago. We're looking at the replay. He's moving very slowly. Oh, he blew his engine. Dexter blew his engine coming through turn 4.
They're debating yellow flag here.
Now, this...
Yellow flag is out.
We've got our first caution of the day. Here's the curious thing, though. Dexter went by, he coasted by a number of openings in the wall. Now, why he coasted up to a position where he couldn't get pulled aside is strangely curious.
Strangely curious.
And I'm wondering who this is going to help. It's not going to help Amjad Yaman.
No, so I don't.
So I don't think there's no tinfoil hats in here at this point. So our first caution of the day with 28 minutes to go, almost exactly at the 3/4 point. And this is going to mean that everybody is going to get closed up, including Steve Brown and Nicholas Bailey on Brian Strodbeck as well. So there could be some opportunities there.
Yeah.
So since there is going to be a lot that these marshals are going to have to sort through, we are going to go to break, and we will come back and get you the race order as soon as they got that figured out. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We are still watching round 7 of the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. And currently, Brian Strodbeck, who we're watching, is leading the way overall and in the GS class, ahead of Steve Brown, Nicholas Bailey, Duljan Boldrin, and Elliot Huffman. And ST Amjad Yaman is the leader, but his 12-second advantage is now gone, as James Stevenson is behind him in second, Arthur Chan is in third, Sergio Mora in fourth, and Jere Yanis is in fifth. We are under our first caution of the day, impressively, a long first green flag session all the way to an hour and a half into this race as we watch the marshals sort the cars and get everybody into their position. We do have the driver that unfortunately caused the yellow flag with us, and that was Dexter Castro, who unfortunately has a premature end to his race. Dexter, it looks like a blown engine for you today.
Yep, turned out putting around 2 seconds off the pace for the last hour wasn't gonna happen. Just gave up. Wasn't even shifting or anything. Just went poof.
Well, we were curious about when the incident happened. It seemed like you went by a number of openings in the wall. Is there a reason you passed them by?
The first one, I had the GS leader right on my tail. I didn't want to slam on the brakes in front of him, and then I just completely forgot about the one on the outside of Moss. I was looking all along the right-hand side, and I didn't see any. And then I thought where the pavement comes out to the wall, I thought there would be an opening there on the right side, but there wasn't. It was just, apparently they paved right up to the wall and don't put a gap in it.
Unfortunately misleading. Well, the sad thing about this is that unfortunately your teammate Amjad Yaman has lost his 12-second gap over James Stevenson, so it's going to be a very interesting race up at the top of ST. You did a very handy job before your blown engine of working your way through the pack. What happened in qualifying that set you down in 11th?
Well, just couldn't find a draft, just, you know, and lots of people actually seem to be qualifying above what they normally do. I mean, we had a very close pack, and you know, I was back there in good company. I had Carl and Stefan right in front of me, so I don't think it was just a particularly bad qualifying. It was just unfortunately it didn't match race pace, and you know, I had to avoid getting whatever the guy who had that happen in V8 Supercar, who had a guy come right across his nose after going off the grass on the outside. Nearly had that happen with Arthur on the first lap, and luckily I saw him go off in my mirror and gave him room. But after that, it was just, I felt like I had to pass everybody 4 times. Seems every time I got there I just caught a bad break. Then top it all off, once I finally got clear of it, for some reason my car just popped into neutral in Moss and lost about 9 seconds there. And then from there it was just trying to run down the leaders, and then I came up on a car, and really the one place you can't do anything about it. I could have basically either hit him or thrown it into the wall, and I figured I was going slow enough that I took my chance with running into him, but it didn't turn out.
Well, we're sad to see that all that hard work did not cap off with a good finish today, so commiserations, and hopefully we'll see better results at Indy.
Oh, yep, hopefully.
It looks like we might be sorted, and we are going to hopefully be going back green next time by, not this time by, but next time by. We'll see as soon as the pace car comes across the start-finish line. If those lights go off, then hopefully we should be going green after the next lap. So as Strodbeck leads the way to the line behind the pace car, it looks like, and unfortunately my view has been obscured.
Lights are out.
The lights are out on the pace car, like Ayrton said. So here's crossing our fingers. We're going to go back to green. We've got 15 minutes left to go. So it's going to be a mad dash to the end, guys.
Yeah, especially in this GS class. I think Strodbeck, Brown, and Bailey are all very similar in speed. So I'm looking forward to seeing some passes. I hope Brown tries to make an aggressive move early so the battle will continue and Strodbeck won't run away again.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Steve Brown has not won a race in this series since Lime Rock of Season 2 when he was champion. So Steve Brown, and he's had a lot of very close chances to try and reel one in, but just can't seem to make everything come together for it. This is going to be a very good opportunity. He's got Nicholas Bailey behind him, who's been close on pace, and he's got a very fast Brian Strodbeck, but you never know what opportunities might arise if he can ride on the coattails. Meanwhile, back in ST, Amjad Yaman is going to really have his hands full, I think, with that draft, reeling in a very fast Aussie behind him, Bill.
Well, I think he's going to have an advantage since he is basically the pace car, so that's going to help him out a little bit. What's interesting is, in back in ninth place is Carl Williamson. So look for him to be doing some slicing and dicing as he makes his way up. You may see a top 5 here from him.
Williamson, you have to say, he kept the faith and kept in this thing despite not getting that caution until way late, and managed to hold on to his position so that he didn't go another lap down and, you know, be further in the hole. And now he is on the lead lap, as you said. So this is a driver known for, I mean, we've dubbed on GSRC doing a Carl Williamson because he comes from the back so many times and is absolutely lightning fast and aggressive. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do today. Back up at the front, we are getting ready to go green very soon. Pace cars coming through the S's now. Can Brian Strodbeck hold on to take another win? He's another hot shoe who tends to come in. He doesn't usually compete for the entire season because of his schedule with his day job. Pace car peels off. Strodbeck gets the green. He accelerates away, and it's not a huge jump. Steve Brown is holding on to the back of him. Same thing with Nicholas Bailey. Then we've got Duljan Boldrin, who has fought hard today and is currently up in fourth with a very antsy Elliot Huffman, who's on alternate strategy. But now it's everybody is done with their pit stops. It is now green to the end. Hopefully it has all got to be done on track as Strodbeck leads them over the hill, and there's a very good run for Steve Brown. Strodbeck goes defensive up into 3. Brown tries around the outside, and there is nothing doing there. In fact, it puts him at a disadvantage as now he gets a bad exit out of 3 with Nicholas Bailey trying around the inside, but it switches back to the outside coming to 4. You can't go too wide through there. He's going to have to slot back in line. He's going to try it anyway. He holds on to the outside, tries to outbreak him into Moss, gets chopped off at the nose as Brown tries to go for the apex, gives him just enough room. Now they accelerate down the backstretch, and they are 1, 2, 3, Strodbeck, Brown, and Bailey. Meanwhile, what does the front of the ST class look like, Bill?
Oh, not nearly as exciting as what I was listening to from you. Amjad Yaman did a great job of playing cat and mouse with James Stevenson. Amjad still holds the lead. Yuri Yanis made a nice move, though. I think he's up to 4th place. He got around Sergio Mora, so finally, after an hour and 50 minutes, Yanis is back up to where he started before he had a disastrous first lap.
Mora still without a win in the series, even after starting on pole, and now he's down to 5th. Don't count out Arthur Chan, though. Look at him holding on to the back of our front 2 of Amjad Yaman and James Stevenson. I wonder if maybe he's going to start playing this drafting game and try to get in for a win in this series, which I don't believe he's had yet.
No, I don't think so. And follow up on the Carl Williamson watch. He's only got by one guy. He got by Hango Tao, so he's running in 8th.
Still, I don't expect him to dilly-dally too long back there. So we still got a gap between these guys. Let's jump back to our top contenders in the GS class. Strodbeck has got just the slightest of gaps, but Steve Brown and Nicholas Bailey have a papers width between them yet again, as Bailey is only maybe 2 or 3 car lengths behind that black and white machine, closing up, under braking for Moss. Once again, trying to get themselves the best exit possible. Everybody nice and tidy. And it looks like it's going to be a drag race once again, but I don't know if anybody is close enough to utilize that draft.
And you mentioned that Steve Brown hasn't gotten a win since Season 2, but Nicholas Bailey hasn't got a win ever. His highest finish is actually Season 3 at Homestead in 2nd place, so he's probably looking for that maiden win as well, while Brian Strodbeck and Steve Brown, they've both won races. Obviously Strodbeck the most recent of them, but these guys are all very hungry for wins.
We have 2 race winners, 1 champion, and 1 who has done neither. So who is the hungriest between them? Who is the best between them? We're going to find out with only 10 minutes left to go on the clock. And they have closed the gap to Strodbeck. They've pulled him back in from what he had at about halfway through the lap, as Bailey actually gets a bad entry coming into turn 1, but gets the better exit and regains that ground now as they head up over the hill. over the crest into turn 2. So it is all still to fight for in the GS class with the top 3 all together and less than a second between them.
And it looks like Dolgen, just Elliot Huffman managed to get by Dolgen who actually made a big mistake a couple laps ago. He dropped down to 8th place.
Huffman's been doing pretty good late in the race, it seems. He started in 5th, so he's only gained 1 position overall. But right now, 4th place, I think he'll take that. He's having a good time here in the Mustang.
Stevenson is stalking Yaman. I mean, he's all over. He's like a bad ex-boyfriend. He is hunting him down. And Arthur Chan is hanging in there also in 3rd place. But I just get this hunch that Steve... And Mora has spun it in the wall. Let's see if that brings out a yellow flag.
That was coming out of turn 3. He just put a wheel off into the dirt, it looks like. We're going to look at the replay. And his car's not damaged enough. He should be able to keep going. Yeah, he just had no room to turn around, unfortunately. As you can see, the results of that, just a hard nose into the wall.
And we talk about Mora's luck. I mean, I don't know if that's bad luck or just, a mistake, but certainly he doesn't deserve the finish he's going to end up with today.
Yeah, that was definitely driver error, I would say. Drifting a little bit wide, pushing a little bit too hard. Man, we are back on those GS leaders, and there's still nothing between them. About a car's length between all 3 cars as they come around turn 2. Strodbeck still in the lead in that orange and blue car, with Steve Brown in 2nd in black and white, and then blue and white for Nicholas Bailey in 3rd, as Brown closes right up on the bumper as we look back from Brian Strodbeck. In fact, he's trying to get a nose in coming out of turn 3. He's got a pretty good exit. Is he going to try to go side by side down in a Moss corner? He's holding on around the outside, but no, just not quite enough. Tries to outbrake him, but just can't get that nose in. They're going to stay nose to tail now coming out of the corner. And who can get the best exit? He is much closer this time by. He is really going to have that draft coming down the backstretch.
Brown has been getting really good exits in the past couple corners, and even last lap he was trying to make a move in the final little section before the start-finish line. He's got run now. He's going to try to go to outside. He does.
So can he make this work? Like you said, we've seen guys make it work on both sides. Strodbeck has the inside as they break for turn 8, and he's starting to lose out, but now he closes up just a little bit. There's inches between them. Close racing between both of those guys. He has the inside of the next corner, but now Strodbeck is going to have the inside of the final turn. Is he going to out-accelerate him? Yes, he does. It looks like Brown is going to have the edge, and he gets clear of him. Steve Brown leads the race for the first time. We have 6 minutes left in this thing. Can Strodbeck get it back? Can Brown hold on to it to the end? Nicholas Bailey wants in this thing as he looks to the outside coming into turn 2. He's going to make life hard for Brian Strodbeck. He tries to go wide. Not enough momentum. But now he carries it out of the corner as Strodbeck tries to go defensive up into turn 3. He has to slow down as they're trying to hold on to the back of Steve Brown, who runs away from him. But now a mistake from Nicholas Bailey. He drops back. And it's going to be just Brian Strodbeck and Steve Brown up at the front. Can Brown hold them off for the last few laps?
Ed Forras has crashed out on the side of the road.
And Mora has just got by, Stevenson just got by Yaman.
So the lead has changed in both classes. James Stevenson now up at the front, anticipating possibly if we get a caution. He wants to be up in the lead, does not want to be caught out by that. Now, I heard that we had a car on the side of the road a little bit earlier. I'm not sure who that was.
Yeah, Ed Forras blew his engine in turn 3. He managed to get off to the side of the road and tow his car, so no caution.
Oh, that's got to be gut-wrenching. Mere minutes from the checkered flag. Meanwhile, we are still back on those GS leaders as Steve Brown is leading the way with Brian Strodbeck behind him. It has literally been years since Steve Brown has won a race in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. Can he do it today? We've been waiting for this for a long time. We've seen him get so many great opportunities and can't seem to bring it home. Today, he's got one of the hot shoes, Brian Strodbeck, trailing him very closely now as he closes up around turn 2, Aaron.
Yeah, and this is the first time in this race that Brian Strodbeck has actually been challenged besides the first lap of the race. So, I mean, he's been sitting on his own all race, so this is really different for him, and he hasn't been battling all this time like Bailey and Brown has, so he doesn't know where where like the limits for some side-by-side racing now.
That's an excellent point, as Brown actually goes very wide coming up into the entry of Moss Corner there, going very far inside. So that was unusual. That's allowed Stride to get back up on the rear bumper of that black and white machine. And he's going to try and close down the backstretch, but once again, not quite close enough. The draft is going to reel him in down towards turn 8, but I don't think he's going to have an opportunity.
You can stay up there, but I just want to keep the viewers updated. Chan is right back behind Stevenson now. He was side by side for a while.
So Chan is in second now?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Yaman who's back up there. Chan's holding in
excuse me,
third. Yeah, there you go.
You had me confused for a second. I didn't see that on my timing and scoring. So we'll keep us, if there's a challenge for the lead, please break in over there. Meanwhile, Strodbeck, less than a car length behind Brown now as they come across the line, starting lap 72. There's a minute and 40-some left. They've got about 2 laps to go here for these cars. As Strodbeck gets a better run, Brown has to go defensive coming up into turn 2. It's very difficult to try and get past him here. He takes the apex and balks Strodbeck, causing him to have to check up. This is allowing Nicholas Bailey to start to close back in on these guys. Can Bailey get on this and maybe try to capitalize when those two start battling and get his first win in the series?
Out of these 3 guys, Steve Brown pitted the latest in his second pit stop, so he does have freshest tires, but only by a few laps. So it's the
Yaman's
slightest little bit
side by side with Stevenson, but he's on the outside. He's going to try to hold the outside for the lead here, and he can't quite do it. Stevenson hangs on.
And actually they are on the front stretch now, and he's fighting back around turn 1. He's got the inside, but it's going to switch back as they come to 2. In fact, he doesn't even have the momentum, so Stevenson is going to have the line. So, as things are back to normal with Stevenson in the lead and Amjad behind him. Actually, interestingly, Steve Brown, where's... Oh, I couldn't see Brian Strodbeck for a second there. I thought that he had left Strodbeck behind, but no, they are still nose to tail heading through the S's. Are they going to get the white flag this time by? Oh, I'm sorry, I saw the time wrong last time. It is 2 minutes left on the clock. So, now it is 2 laps to go. Excuse me. Meanwhile, heading onto the backstretch, let's switch to ST. James Stevenson has Amjad Yaman pulling the draft behind him. We could see a lead change once again. Is Amjad going to try and get by now? Is he going to try and snipe at the end? He's already looking to the outside, but now they've got a GS car coming up behind them. Are they going to be able to try and give him room? Oh, they're getting very close. They're in the middle of the road. The GS driver starts to hold back. He knows this is a battle for the lead. And around the outside, Amjad Yaman is trying to hold on to it. He starts to fall back, and no, he's not going to have it into the left-hander of 9. Stevenson back into the lead.
Yaman's tried that move probably the last 3 laps, and the same thing has happened every time. Then he gets a good run here every time. He's got a chance at him now.
And as he comes back on the inside, once again, this is what he did last time, but Stevenson held the momentum around the outside. Yaman is trying to go a little bit faster. He's a little closer. He does have a nose in, but Stevenson is going to cover him off heading into 2. The question is, can he get a good enough run out of this corner? They still have that GS car. That is Anthony Woodward behind them, trying to find a safe way past these guys, and he is waiting very patiently. And just behind them, don't forget Arthur Chan and Yair Yan is fighting for 3rd position, the final spot on the podium. Those two are very close as well. But now, a run coming out of turn 3 for Amjad Yaman, looking to the outside, coming to turn 4.
Oh, not now. Let's see what's going back on the GS class.
Yes,
Sorry, but Brian
actually,
Strodbeck being passed by Nicholas Bailey after he made a mistake trying to pass Steve Brown. He's now getting attacked by Bailey.
this is exactly what Steve Brown wants. With 30 seconds left on the clock, this should be white flag coming out very soon here. White flag is in fact out. So now with Nicholas Bailey all over the back as he dives to the inside of Brian Strodbeck, and he makes contact. Just the slightest of contact, nudges him to the outside, both of them holding on. This is allowing Steve Brown to try and pull the gap. They've got a lapped car of Philip Carpenter, who thankfully pulls over and lets all of them through. Now coming up to Moss Corner, Nicholas Bailey tries to find a way past Brian Strodbeck. Strodbeck trying to pull back up on Steve Brown. He's closed the gap. Only a few more corners. He is right on the back of him. He is going to have the draft down the backstretch. Is he close enough to pull up beside him to try to make a last gap effort? He is trying trying so hard to reel him in, foot to the floor, both of them. Drag race to turn 8. I think he's going to have it. And it looks like Brown's going to try and hold the outside. He squeezes him all the way to the inside of the track. Can he hold on around the, the outside, or was this a mistake? Strudbeck has it. He just barely touches him. Brown is trying his hardest to squeeze up that nose in. He's got the inside coming around this corner. He knows he can get the momentum. He just barely touches him. Nicholas Bailey comes up on the inside, takes second away, and Steve Brown spins. As Ryan Strudbeck is going to take the win. Nicholas Bailey takes second. Steve Brown recovers and comes back, but Elliot Huffman completes the podium. What does our top look like in ST?
Yaman's all over him, but he's lost a little distance on the last couple of corners. I'm not sure if he's going to have enough time to get Stevenson. Man, he's been alongside of him every lap.
It's looking like a very far gap for these guys to try and close it up, and I don't think Amjad got enough of a good of an exit coming out of turn 6 there. Behind them, though, Arthur Chan is behind Yair Yanis, so those guys swap positions. He is trying to come back at him as well. And that looks like to be the battle because Amjad is not nearly close enough. And Arthur is on the outside of Jair. He's not going to quite have it.
Oh. Little touch at the front, was it?
Oh, James Stevenson crashed out with Amjad.
Stevenson is off. Amjad is off. Yair Yanis is coming through. Yair Yanis is trying to come around the outside of James Stevenson from 3rd place. He's up into the lead. He's got the better exit. Yair Yanis from nowhere on the final lap is going to take the win. Incredible stuff. James Stevenson claims 2nd, and Arthur Chan takes 3rd. Changes for position in both classes in the final corners.
Amjad gave Stevenson just a little tap. Oh
my goodness. We're going to look for that tap now in that replay. I'm sorry that we were focusing on the wrong battle there. What happened here? He made a very late dive, just tipped the back of him. That is not going to go down well between AMS and 49 Motorsports. Stevenson somehow holds onto it. And in all of that, Amjad Yaman, what happened to him as we watched the replay of...
he gave the position.
Yeah, I
he
think
slowed
Eric's
down. He didn't want to take the position.
So
in the process of being a gentleman, he 3rd and 4th place got into trouble.
Yeah, you can see, wow, look at Arthur Chan keeping it together sideways and then coming around the outside of Yaman for the final podium spot. Oh my goodness. Everybody deserves credit for keeping it together as we look on board Arthur. We're going to look just a little bit farther back as he comes around the outside of here. I don't think he expected those guys to spin suddenly in front of them. He was fighting for that final podium spot there. And there he gets tipped out of nowhere with an anxious Yair Yanis. Gets it corrected, comes up around the outside, squeezes him all the way to the curb. Wow. That is the stuff of legend, Bill.
I'm sure it looks, when the viewers just came back over and just caught the tail end of that, I have to realize that Stevenson and Yaman were going at it for at least 4 laps. Since it went green, it was basically a dogfight the whole way. And it's unfortunate that it happened so close to the end, but I mean, man, that was a fight for 5-6 minutes.
Well, after all that excitement, we need to go to break. I hope that we get some drivers to talk to at the end of that, because that was absolutely incredible. We'll be back with interviews and unofficial results. Well, in one of the most incredible finishes we just saw at MoSport, we have just finished round 7 in the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, and in the end, Brian Strodbeck came out on top. Nicholas Bailey grabbed a fantastic second position, tying his best ever finish. Elliot Huffman finished in 3rd. Panu Paisanen took 4th. Andre Trago finished in 5th. Matthew Oak in 6th. Steve Brown, after looking at a possible win, slipped all the way to 7th at the end. Jason Breifogel finished 8th. Dualjan Boldrin 9th. And Tim Brokaw in 10th.
Then Jeff Jacobs in 11th. James Alex Brown in 12th. Anthony Woodward in 13th. Jonathan Auger in 14th. And then we get to our SD class. There's Jared Janis in 1st in the SD class. James Stevenson in 2nd. Arthur Chan in 3rd. Amjad Yaman in 4th. And Richard Losper in 5th. And Matthew Reinhold in 6th. Bill?
In 21st overall, 7th on the chart there in this class is Hango Tao. Stephen Asbury with an 8th place finish there. David Whammo in 9th place. Carl Williamson in 10th. And, he got back, then he had trouble there on the last lap and ended up tip. Philip Carpenter in 11th. Ed Voris in 12th. Sergio Mora had damage and it ended up, it was a spin. Bad finish for him in 13th. Dexter Castro had that engine blow up in 14th. Arthur, let's go back to 29th here. We'll go back to Joe here to wrap up the field. Cut you. Go ahead, Joe.
Nope, sorry. I was discussing interviews there for a second. 29th was Arthur Hermon. 30th was Stefan Owergaard. 31st was George Britton. 32nd, German Fanador. Then Thomas Torp in 33rd. And John Ellers in 34th. And most of those drivers, unfortunately, DNF'd. So we have a few interviews. First off, we have our ST winner, Jared Yanis. Yair, I don't know who's more surprised about your win, us or you?
Most likely me. I didn't see it coming at all. I was just focusing to defending against Arthur, but then it kind of fell on my lap.
Well, this is your first win in this series, if I'm not mistaken, and I have to imagine this one's a little bit more satisfying than your first win in Blondies.
Yeah, I would say so. I was struggling here the whole night because I have never driven MoSport before. I actually drove it for the first time yesterday, only for an hour, and then I jumped into practice today before the race.
Well, that is an incredible feat, first time out for what is a very challenging track. And I have to say, congratulations, you drove a fantastic race and took advantage of some very unusual circumstances at the end.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe.
So, up next, we have Arthur Chan, who came home in 3rd in his class. And Arthur, you were looking at a 3rd place position anyways before all that erupted, but I think the thing that captured everybody's hearts was that amazing save coming through turn 9.
Thanks, Joe. That whole last sequence of corners was just a complete blur to me. You're right, I was quite happy to be sitting in 3rd place. I was totally happy with that finish, considering the quality of drivers in the race. But I guess I do feel a bit bad that there was a bit of an opportunity for a win there, which I still haven't managed to do in this league, but just slipped through my fingers again.
Well, even still, that was a lot of chaos to work your way through, so I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of to be able to come away from that thing the way you did. Also credit to you for working your way through and your strategy as well, because we were kind of watching your progress, and it seemed like it wasn't as crazy a strategy as you had at Watkins Glen, but it certainly kept you a little bit farther up front.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, in the first half of the race, I ended up battling with Dexter. He was behind me and he kept creeping up, and I made the decision to pit when I did, just to get out of that battle and hopefully get some clean air. that seemed to work. It got me jumped ahead of those guys a little bit, and at the end I was following Mora for a while. I was figuring that he's usually quicker than me, but he was starting to hold me up a bit, so I thought it was a good time to pit again, and that worked out as well. So no, the strategy just worked out today.
Excellent stuff. Congrats on the podium, and hopefully maybe you can get 2 steps higher at Indy.
Thanks very much, Joe. I will definitely give it my best.
Up next, we have Steve Brown, who unfortunately did not have as much of a fairy tale finish, and Ayrton is going to talk to him.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Steve, pretty hectic last lap. It was exciting to watch, but I'm sure it was a little disappointing to you. Can you tell us what was going through your mind on that last lap? Steve?
Yeah, I'm thinking here, guys. You know, I was thinking the whole way down Andretti Straight which side to take, and I made the wrong decision. I thought that I could hold Brian off if I took the outside in, since that's how I got by him in the first place, but it didn't work out that way, and then we made contact. Nicholas got in there, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, and just talking about Nicholas, you guys were together for the majority of the race. Once you were behind Brian after the caution came out, were you focusing more on Brian, or were you still pretty worried about Nicholas behind you?
Honestly, I thought Brian was going to take off, and I was really only worried about Nicholas. To be honest, I thought there would be some guys that pit there. You know, there was, what, 15 minutes to go when we went green, and I felt tires were pretty important, you know, and I think in 2 laps, I gapped Nicholas by like 3 or 4 seconds just before he pit, but nobody went in. But yeah, I was more worried about Nicholas, and then I ended up getting around Brian, and I thought he might just let me have it since he's not in the championship, but it was still good racing.
Yeah, and speaking about the championship, you and Nicholas are about the same round, but the 3 guys above you, Suominen, Bieri, and Vandergriff, they didn't show up today, so that means they're using one of their drop weeks. Do you think this was a good opportunity to gain some time on them, and do you think you have a chance to get up to the top in the championship?
Well, it certainly was. I know there's a couple of guys that were right behind us too that I think actually ended up finishing ahead of me now here. And on top of it, everybody in the race except for me got bonus points for incidents, so that's a 5-point loss to everybody in the field. But you know, we'll see how the standings shake out after the race here.
Okay, thanks for talking to us, Steve. A little disappointing race, but you definitely showed us a good race there between you and Nicholas, and definitely at the end between Brian. So good job. Thanks for talking to us. Back to you, Joe.
But before we let Steve go, he has actually been racing for a very good cause. We mentioned it at the top of the broadcast. Can you tell us a little bit about it real quick, Steve?
Yeah, sure. I'm racing for an organization called Rough Start Happy Tails. They're a dog rescue that I actually got both of my dogs from. So what I'm doing is for every lap that I complete in the CESCS for the rest of the season, I'll donate 50 cents. And then for a podium, I'll donate $5. And then for a win, I'll donate another $20. So I was joking, basically today, the puppies had $25 ripped from their paws.
The saddest image ever. But again, yeah, I can't tell you how much we were hoping to see that long time win that you've been hoping for, but maybe at Indy.
Yeah, let's hope. Thanks, guys.
We have Nicholas Bailey up next, and Nicholas is one of those guys that was up there fighting the whole way and giving Steve Brown quite a hard time, but still. Nicholas, are you happy with tying your best ever finish in the series?
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet. I certainly happy with how well I did, but not psyched that I took Steve out there at the end. It was kind of last turn, and my eyes may have been a little bit bigger than the space in my car there.
Well, you know, that one small mistake, I think, put aside by some incredible racing by both of you guys throughout the entirety of the race. You gave us a lot of good entertainment on air as we watch you guys swap positions back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, right up until that last week, we probably swapped places 3 or 4 times, and been a lot of real close, clean racing, always giving somebody room if somebody put a wheel off, made a mistake. Worked out real well through traffic. You know, at points we were tracking Brian down there at the end. But just feel bad about that. Really happy with how I finished though, and look forward to the next race.
Absolutely, and maybe eventually can get up to that top podium step. We'll see next time around.
All right, thanks very much, guys.
We've got one more interview. That is with Amjad Yaman, and Bill Zahn is going to ask him some questions.
Oh, Amjad, it's a shame to have you last because we could go out to dinner and talk for an hour on your race. Where to start with. Let's go right to the end. Let's go to the last corner there. Tell me what you thought happened.
Well, it's just me. There was a gap though. I went for it and I made a butt out of myself. Simple as that.
I'm going to come to your defense. I watched it. You raced for 5 minutes, door to door. You were very clean, and you made a mistake there at the end. That's racing.
I did.
Steven,
I'll take it.
yeah,
I
Stevens, he got second place, but let's be honest. You had that race locked up until you need to talk to your teammate about how to get a car off the track when they blow an engine, because that yellow flag really cost you.
Oh yeah. We were on TeamSpeak at the time, and it blew up. Trust me, it blew up. Yeah, it's just had a 10-second gap on James there. I was cruising to the victory, and then that happened, and oh.
Some awesome, and we talked about it in the race. If you watch the rebroadcast of it, some excellent pit strategy. I mean, it couldn't have worked out better for you.
Yeah, that was part of the plan. It was because there was what happens if you take too much on your first pit stop? There was a little delay in the middle. I was trying to get rid of that, hoping there wouldn't be a caution, and it happened. And it happened right to perfection. Into the very end, that last caution, we all bunched back up. All that work lost right then and there.
Well, the AMS drivers know how to get their cars off the track so that there's not yellow flags. So you may want to consider talking some team strategy. Let me say this, man. I thought it was a great race, and you did yourself proud. I know you feel bad about the little accident, but I mean, Stevenson got second. That's what he deserved anyway. So congratulations on putting on a great show.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Anya. Back to you, Joe.
Well, we are ready to close up for the day after a fantastic broadcast. I think we all enjoyed that race out there. That was some great stuff. Before we go, we want to thank a few people. Obviously, thanks to Safecraft Racing, the official sponsor of the CESCS. Also, thanks to Wes Eric, the organizer of this league, for all the hours that he puts in, as well as the marshals who do a lot to make this thing possible. Thank you to the software and hardware that we use, iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, and AverMedia. Also, thanks to the team today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter, as we mentioned, at GSR Channel, and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Thanks goes out to Doug Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing Channel, and a shout out to Eric Ekholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. As we mentioned, next race is going to be at Indianapolis on the road course. That's Saturday, September 6th at 10:30 p.m. UTC. That usually puts on some good draft racing as well. Our next broadcast, however, is tomorrow night. That's the VSRA at Sebring, Sunday, August 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern. After that, on Wednesday, we've got the ASRS at Bristol, August 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, the Northwest Majors comes back at Bristol, Sunday, August 17th at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. And, of course, don't forget the Blondie Series returns. I'm sure Bill will enjoy that one. At Circuit of the Americas, Saturday, September 6th at 6 p.m. UTC. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.